Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Хто буде всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Street Army sends its regards.
Усміхнеться доля, згинуть наші вороженьки, як роса на сонці, запануємо ми, браття, у свої сторонці, душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm the Enforcer, and welcome back to the Day 251 and Day 252 segment. I am the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, everybody. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to the news on day 252 and 251. And also, a big thanks to you all for the kind words on the video. It looks like it was a success, and I'm very glad to see it.
And of course, another quick note, I would like to thank everyone who came in here on Sunday and helped to blow through another fundraising goal. Our fundraiser goal was for Razom for Ukraine on Sunday, and out of the $7,500 we intended to raise, we ended up raising $10,700 for Razom for Ukraine. Can we get a yee-haw? Yeah! And of course, I thank everyone so much. Yes, sir! 100, laughing face, smiling face. And I thank everyone so much that came in here and helped out. Of course, the fundraisers are one of the things that I pride this channel the most on. It is something that I don't think any other channel does weekly, and especially on this scale. And it's good to know that so many people help us to continue to help Ukraine, and that all of that support will be going to soldiers and helping them to have a future after this war. And a lot of people are always looking at the future of the Ukraine war as in tomorrow. What will these soldiers be doing tomorrow? How will they keep on fighting? And while I would love to focus on that kind of stuff, due to the limitations YouTube gives out, we can't really focus on that. And of course, not only that, it's a little bit of a positive because no one really thinks about what are these soldiers going to be doing after the war. And sure, I mean, yeah, they're going to have the most high-tech equipment right now, thanks to Western support. But are they going to be having a good life after the war? You know, once they have to turn in this Javelin and turn in the M4 and the M777s that they've been provided back to the military, and then they go back into normal life as a citizen, what will they be doing? And Razom for Ukraine is helping out massively in that regard, and a whole load of Ukrainians and soldiers and their families will be having a good life thanks to their support. And so thank you everyone so much once again who supported that fundraiser. And it's now time to get into our news for the night. Now, I don't have the casualty report tonight, but I can promise y'all one thing. I'm not saying that the Russians are taking heavy losses for no reason. Oh, no. This is something that you can see on video today. Now, real quick, before we move into Ukraine, we do not have any international news, so let's hop straight into the location unknowns, because we have some pretty interesting ones from both day 251 and day 252. Also, something else that's shocking and unbelievable is that this is now the 50th day of the day 200s. And to think that we've gone through this, let's see, good lord, like 5 times at this point? We've gone through 5 sets of 50 days at this point. And to see that Ukraine is still pushing forward and they're still winning? When it wasn't even expected for them to last a week, it really is a testament and a monument to the bravery of the Ukrainians alone. Forget Western equipment. Even with the best arms and equipment possible, nothing on paper should have been able to beat, unless it was the United States, the Russian Federation and its military. And yet somehow, the Ukrainians with sheer determination alone have continued to survive this long, and not only this long, they've defied expectations, and they have now taken the initiative everywhere across the entirety of the front lines. It's unbelievable to really think about when you put it in that kind of perspective and context. So with that, we're now going to be moving down into day 251's Location Unknown news, starting off with a Stugna destroying a tank. And I gotta say, this is some pretty high definition quality video right here. We don't get a lot of this with Stugnas, but here's the video. You can see them looking at the Russian tank. We can see it right there where my mouse cursor is circling. We can also see what appears to be a BMP-2 right over there on the left side, and maybe another vehicle right there.
Я ж кажу, що спалили, блядь. Ми коли РПГ стріляли, блядь, от з тобою, вона горіла, а потім башня улетіла. От перед танком стоїть беха, без голови.
Какая-то из них первая, что я встретил. Кто наблюдал вообще?
Ну, ты съебал первую отлево.
Оцю, що стоїть раком.
Танками
We
первую.
see them continuing to conversate as they're looking at the tank. Oh my god!
Dang.
Did they even fire a Stugna? I didn't even hear it the whole...
Танками первую.
Hang on. They didn't fire a Stugna. What was that? That was not a Stugna from the Stugna launcher. They were just watching the obliteration of an entire, like, PTG out there on the tree line. I don't even know what that was. Oh, crap, you could see it.
Down.
It was a bomb. Oh my lord. Road wheels are flying off into the field. Turrets are raining back. Oh my god. There was a turret toss. Good lord. That was insane. I haven't ever seen anything like that. And some of y'all are saying that it's a javelin. I think it could be, but at the same time, the size of that explosion was so large. It had to have been something else. Some people are saying an M777 shell. Maybe it couldn't have been a HIMARS. It was too small for that because it would have been pretty much the entire missile still intact flying towards the tank. But I don't know what hit it, but whatever hit it, it really packed a punch. And I would have to give that a 10 out of 10 in the turret toss competition.
Ебать мой хуй. Да. Все, башни нема.
Охуеть.
And everything is gone except for this one APC over here on the left. Oh my lord! Okay, that was a great way to start the location unknowns, and there you can kind of see at least a snippet as we continue on and watch till the end of the news tonight, because there's nothing but videos like this showing that the Ukrainians, of course, are obliterating Russian units as the war keeps on going. It's unbelievable. Some people are saying it was a TOW. That would be new, because if they somehow integrated the Stugna launcher with a TOW system, that is brand new. I don't think we would have ever seen anything like that in the war before, so that would be actually groundbreaking. So if we can get more evidence on that, we will make sure to report on that. But one thing you have to remember is that TOWs, much like a Stugna, do fly directly from, I guess you could say, the operator to its target, and it is also a direct line-of-sight weapon. You can't, like a Stugna, hide behind cover and then fire the Stugna in the open. You have to be with the TOW when it fires, as far as I know. And of course, the TOWs fly, I guess you could say, perpendicular with the ground. Well, no, horizontally with the ground. So it's somewhat similar to a Stugna. That thing, though, came straight from the sky. And so it's leading me to believe that it may have been some kind of an artillery shell. With that, we're now going to be moving on into the next clip of Location Unknown News, where we can see that a Russian BMD-4 went up in flames. This thing is pretty much the airborne version of a BMP-3. It's a little bit lighter, it has a different hull, but it doesn't really matter because Ukrainian artillery eats up BMP-3s and BMD-4s like they're one and the same. When you hear some copyrighted music playing as the little BMD is trucking around down there, it looks like he's trying to break towards a tree line in the side, but Ukrainian artillery does not discriminate. Open field or tree line, this thing is going to get obliterated like it did right there. And it's gone. Another Russian APC lost, and if I'm correct, I believe the BMDs are actually a little bit more populated than BMP-3s in terms of their overall strength numbers on paper. But we can see that this thing is smoking, burning, and charring. Anyone bought Kingsford charcoal briquettes lately? Because that thing looks like a brand new Kingsford charcoal briquette line. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on into the next bit of Location Unknown News, where we see that the Ukrainians did something really bizarre, and they fired off a javelin at night. We have never seen this before. This is brand new. And it looks like it was a hit. So real quick, I'm going to show you all this video because it's very interesting just for the fact that it happened at night. So here we go. See them fire the javelin? Quick, Matthew, make a wish.
Gosh,
that thing went far. Oh!
Yeah.
It's a mini sun.
Ah, yes. The sun is rising over Ukraine another day. A little bit early, but it looks like it's still as good a day as any other. You know, for some reason, Matthew, this reminds me of that heart medicine commercial in America where that woman is looking out the window saying, "The sun will come out tomorrow." Yes.
Oh, yes.
Сука! Нахуй! Гандон! О, блядь!
The roosters are all confused right now. They're like, what in the world's going on?
Опять. Молодец, блядь. Ты, падла, горить, сука! Палая, блядь!
The Russians that are around that tank that weren't hit, they were probably sleeping. The tank blew up, and then they went, "Oh, блядь, time for 5 o'clock patrol." It's like 12 o'clock at night. But anyways, it's nice to see that the Ukrainians are still knocking out Russian tanks, even with javelins at night. Now, going off of this, we have to assume, and I don't really know a lot about the CLU on a javelin launcher, that it has some kind of a night vision or infrared on it for it to be able to target a tank at night. It's something we've never seen before, and it's really new to me, but it's still good to see that it doesn't really matter whether it's night or day. The javelin can be used at all hours. It's kind of like a Waffle House. It's open 24/7. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from day 251's location unknowns, and we're now going to be moving into day 252. Starting over the first clip of news where you see that a Ukrainian sniper once again hit a long shot. Now, when I first got this video, it was not marked as an SFW, and for that reason, unfortunately, I won't be able to show it on stream. However, right now is a perfect moment to tell you all about how you can access the exact map I have on stream. And real quick, let me give some quick information about it. This map is not used by anyone else on the internet. I feel like it is kind of a little cheap, in my opinion, to just go grab one off the internet like Deep State UA's map or Live UA, because that's a group of people doing their own thing for their own reasons. So this map is made entirely by scratch by me every single day. I go around and I gather up all of these video clips and also change the front line, but my front line, admittedly, and I will say it, it is not entirely accurate because it's based off of video and picture evidence of where Russian forces have been documented to be. So it's not accurate in some places like Kherson, where the front line looks quite different on other maps than mine. But considering that it's based off video and picture evidence, it's as accurate as we can get it. If you want to see this map for yourself and travel around on it, because you can, go into the description below on this video, and at the very last link in the description, you can click on it and it'll take you exactly to this map where you can see every single bit of location unknown news that I show on this map every single day. And it's made fresh every day. Of course, there's always a little glitch here and there, but by and large, I always make sure to bake one fresh and have it down in the description each and every day, so that way y'all too can go through and look at this map whenever y'all want. One last thing. Do not quote, like it's a Bible, the exact locations of these markers. If they ever show Ukrainian units, I make them about as inaccurate as possible. They will be in the general area where that video was filmed, but at the same time, they may be dozens of miles off or several miles off. Russian markers are as accurate as I can get them, so if I see their location, I usually try and track down exactly where that happened, and then put that up. So just keep that in mind. So with that, we're now going to be moving on into the next clip of Location Unknown News, where we can see that the Ukrainians have once again kind of rigged together a kamikaze drone. I can't say the other word because I think YouTube doesn't really like it all too much, but here's the video. We can hear some heavy metal, probably made by Starsky, and we can now see it heading into the APC and going up in a ball of fire. So with that, that's the end of the video, but I gotta say, the Ukrainians are really starting to get down the whole kamikaze drone aspect, and it looks like they're doing it better than the Russians. Because the Russians, on one hand, they were like, well, Vladimir, we don't really have the ability to make them on our own, so let's go buy a two-stroke Shahed 136 from Iran, and we'll use it here. It should work. And then they start using it against civilians. The Ukrainians, on the other hand, will make them out of racing drones, strap a whole bunch of high explosives on the bottom of the thing, and then just go ram it into Russian military equipment. So by and large, they're doing a lot better, and it's good to see that the Ukrainians are putting in the maximum amount of effort into making sure that the Russians know they're not welcome in Ukraine. And so with that, we're now going to be going into the next bit of Location Unknown News, where we can see a Ukrainian drone cleaning up. And when I say cleaning up, I mean call this drone the janitor, because it's clearing house. And so with that, Clearinghouse is actually not what janitors.
Janitors clear house? What kind of
Janitors-
janitors are these?
I mean, I'm telling you, man, when I went to class this morning, I saw a janitor start clearing bathrooms. Like, he had on full SWAT gear and everything, I promise you. But it was civilian-grade SWAT gear, because civilian-grade SWAT gear is better than military-grade SWAT gear. But anyways, here's the video. Of course, we can hear some music playing, but we can see a decent amount of Russians down there. And the drone sees them as well. I can promise you all that. Looks like quite a large amount of them. And of course, one thing that we've seen that the Russians have never really learned over the course of this whole war is spacing. We're 8.5 months into this war at this point, and you would think, after watching, or at least the Russian command, after watching so many Russian soldiers get killed in this war and wounded, at this point it's probably up towards around 180 to 200,000 wounded and killed combined. And they've seen that many of them just get blown away, mostly due to poor spacing like this. You would think that they would finally get some kind of a directive or a order and be like, we need to emphasize spacing amongst the troops so they don't get obliterated each and every time a drone comes flying around. But somehow, 8.5 months in, it just looks like the Russian commanders are too busy lining their pockets with that sweet defense money, and they still haven't gotten around to telling these guys how to actually fight and survive on a front line. So we can see them all, of course, hanging out around these two craters. And we can see the drone closing in and getting a little bit lower. And now it looks like the bomblet's on its way. We can see it explode over there on the other side of the crater. Russians go running off in every direction. We can see them drop another one. See that explode nearby as well. And you know, I would just think, I don't know about you, Matty, but I feel like it's common sense that when you start grouping up, like you're at some kind of a tour, it doesn't really do you well in a battlefield because it makes you a literally massive target.
Yeah, it seems like it would. And also, Enforcer, bad news, but it looks like we've been age restricted.
Already?
Well, I was told that, but there came a super chat, so maybe that's not true.
Hang on, everyone. Hang on, let me go check this real quick. No, we have not. That was a...
Fake news.
That, as they call it, is a false flag. And so with that, we're going to be moving on into the next bit of Location Unknown news, where we can see that there was a destroyed Pantsir. Now, one thing that was interesting to me, one Russian thought it was sensible to take this Pantsir into an irrigation ditch that looks like the Los Angeles River and just leave it in there. I mean, there's no way for it to just drive off. It has to drive down this one-line route. There's only one route of escape for this thing, and they parked it at the very end of the worst place to go. But we can see here that the Ukrainians, of course, capitalized on the situation and dropped some artillery right near that Pantsir, knocking it out. See the smoke billowing off the Pantsir, and just in case if y'all don't know, another little interesting fact, maybe for some of our newer viewers, a Pantsir vehicle holds special precedence on this channel, because that vehicle is where the Lee Spring Army was born as a community, because the Pantsir uses Lee Springs as suspension, and about over 210 days ago, I got it wrong that Lee Spring's suspension was incredibly old and dated and no one used it. I was quite wrong, and the chat let me know. And from then on, the Lee Spring Army started to form and come into being as an actual community on this channel. So the Pantsir is really special to the Lee Spring Army because that's where it actually comes from. Anyways, getting beyond that little fun fact, we're now going to be moving on into our final bit of Location Unknown news, where we can see that the Russians have gotten really smart, but really stupid at the same time, and have made a camouflaged sleeping quarters or hidey hole. We're going to have to mute this because they're playing some kind of a music. But when you see here a Russian kind of bunker, and as this guy closes the doors, you can see that it blends in as an ammo crate among the rest of them. Kind of smart. I don't know about y'all, that is kind of clever. However, there's one small catch. This looks like an open-air ammo depot. And one thing that we know about open-air ammo depots is that the Ukrainians target those more than any other one on the front because they're the easiest to see. And we've seen time and time again that these things will get glassed by a Ukrainian drone. They'll drop a bomblet on it, the whole thing goes up in flames. So the Russians have decided that the smartest thing with that in mind is to camouflage the entrance to their bunker as an ammo crate. Very, very smart. I have to give credit to the Russians. It's very smart. And when you see the Ukrainian here, he's like, what in the world? Like, he's like, this is just dumb. It really is. See him shining a flashlight down in there, and it honestly looks like a tunnel that the Viet Cong would have made in Vietnam. It doesn't even look like a sleeping quarter. When you see down there some blankets and all. It really blows me away, because a Ukrainian trench will have a TV in it and some bunk beds and maybe a library or a sauna. It'll have wood facings on the sides of the wall, well, wooden walls and wooden floors. You look at a Russian one, and they're literally living in like a dirt hovel hole in the ground. And of course, I mean, you get not every trench is going to be the best trench, but we've never seen a Russian best trench. This is the best it gets. And whenever rain comes around, I promise you, this thing fills up like a swimming pool, and then it's just unusable. And so with that's the end of that little video. But once again, showing you the conditions and also the intelligence, the cunningness of an average Russian soldier, which is not high, considering that they're going to camouflage it as a target. With that, we're now done with the location unknowns, and we've covered all of those, and so we're going to start moving down towards the Frontline news and Svatove on day 251, and then move a little bit further down. Before we get all the way to Svatove, though, where we see that the 25th Brigade was hitting some Russian positions and also obliterating them quite handily as well, let's see about some polls. Have we had any polls, Matthew?
No, actually, you're early, Enforcer. You're about 15 minutes too early on the question segment.
What? Question segment? Well, anyways, since we're going to address 3 questions from the chat, and then we'll be moving on to the 25th Brigade, completely obliterating some Russian positions.
All right. And to answer those 3 questions, up first, we have one from Duncan VR, who puts in a $30 donation and says, of course, the sheep noises. He says, Ba Muba. Putler was playing in his hot tub, ba-ba, meow, rough. A Ukrainian drone entered the tub, ba-ba. The drone guided past Putin's blow-up doll, meow, meow, blew up Putler's rubber ducky, yee-haw, woo-ha, Putler lost his pinky.
What?
I don't know, but it was interesting.
Well, I thank you so much for the roller coaster, Duncan VR. Honestly, I think at this point, we can use that as a code, pretty much. Like, ba 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 moo moo, the birds have left the nest, ba ba moo moo, or something like that, start throwing in code in between them. Honestly, Duncan VR might be pioneering a brand new way of encryption right there. But I thank you so much once again for the support, Duncan VR, and also thank you for being a long-time Lee Spring Army Old Guard member. You've been around forever, and you've helped to support this channel a pretty good deal, and we always know whenever you support us, because you always throw in the funny little animal noises, and it tortures Matthew quite well. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope we addressed that one fairly well, and with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, big shout out to channel legend Phil Tatham for putting in a £30 donation to the stream tonight. It doesn't look like he left a comment. I thought I saw one there for a minute, but then it went away. I was just seeing things. But Phil, thank you very much for the support, and we do appreciate it very much. And Enforcer, would you like to add a few words?
Yes, I would. I would love to thank you so much for the support, Phil. It helps us out greatly, and you didn't throw in a comment, but it does mean a lot. You are from Britain, though. Phil is from Britain. And one thing we always love to do, and I wish you'd at least thrown this in, is say where the general area you are in Britain is from, like a town or a county, because we would go and check it out. And also, real quick to everyone who may send in a super chat, if you're from anywhere, throw in your location, not your exact location, like your house and your street and everything, but like your general area. Like, I'm in like Boise, Idaho, just throwing something like that, because I love to take a look at y'all's towns and see what they look like around the world, because it's one of the few excuses I get to do that on stream, and it's always interesting to everyone. But I thank you so much once again for the support, Phil. Phil is one of our Lee Spring Army members from the United Kingdom, so I guess you could say the British detachment. And so thank you so much once again for the support, because without y'all, this channel wouldn't be able to keep running, and you are keeping the cogs turning, and I guess you could say the fires burning in the Lee Spring Army for us to keep this channel going. So thank you so much once again. And let's address one final one from the chat, and then we're going to be moving on into the next segment of news.
All right, and the final one of the first segment goes to none other than Mark, Slatove, Ukraine, who puts in a $75 donation and says, I need to try that animal sound gag on your birthday, which is every day. And thank you, Mark. Thank you so much. I'm now 155, I think, at this point.
And thank you so much for the support, Mark. And yes, Matthew and me have now turned, actually, I've turned 252. No, wait a minute. No, I turned like 272, adding in my actual age. So
your age just happened to match the day of the stream, 252.
Yes, I'm quite old. In fact, let's think about 272 years from now. Let's do that. 1 second. I gotta subtract that real quick. Let's do some fun fact trivia stuff. 2022 minus 272. The year would be 1750. So let's pull up what happened in 1750? Because I was born in 1750, as a matter of fact, but it takes quite a while to remember that. So, let's see here. 1750s, what happened? Well, we're looking for exactly 1750. Was a common year. I wonder what's an uncommon year, Matthew. Like, what, 1750 and a half? You know, like, I don't know. Anyways, let's see here. Let's see. So apparently there was just a whole bunch of good business about Spain and Portugal doing some stuff down in South America, like let's see, like authorizing a larger Brazil than the Treaty of Tordesillas provided in 1494, and also a couple of other things, like, you know, the first guy to cross the Cumberland Gap. I see. Well, actually, just. Yeah, actually, this is the first guy to have ever traveled over the Cumberland Gap, which, if y'all don't know, is now owned by CSX, and they transport a load of coal through it, and they went over to the other side, which would become a problem a little bit later, because the British would then create, I believe, what was it, Matthew, the line of demarcation?
I think so.
Yeah, the line of demarcation that stopped Western settlers from traveling further into Indian territory, because that was starting to become an issue, and the British were trying to manage, I guess you could say, a very fragile situation in between the colonists and the Native Americans that were on the other side of the mountains. But still, really cool to think that if that was my actual birth year, a whole bunch of interesting stuff was happening then, and I would have been old enough to have participated in the Revolutionary War. So, kind of an interesting little side bit, but thank you so much once again for the support, Mark. You haven't been around as long as others. I do remember when you came onto this channel, but you've helped us out greatly ever since. And I thank you so much for helping to support this channel and helping us to keep running, and also supporting our fundraisers as well. It means a lot to me to have people support our fundraisers. Of course, it's the pride and joy of this channel. It's what I pride the whole channel on, and I thank you so much for being a part of that, and also helping us to keep this channel running, so that way we can continue to get to these Sunday night fundraisers week after week, and we can keep doing this as a full-time job. And so thank you so much once again for the support, Mark. And now, with that in mind, it is time to move on into the Northern Front news, or I guess you could say the Northeastern Front, more like it, near the area of Svatove. Like I said, the 25th was hitting some Russian positions, and if we watch this video, it was pretty handily. So here's the video. We see the artillery landing on some Russian positions, specifically this tree line. We hear them playing some kind of rap music. And we can see that the artillery is incredibly accurate. It's hit entirely in this area here, and just 1 or 2 shots landed further down on the tree line. We can now see one of the Russian vehicles burning in a pile of flames, and it looks like it shot off a little shell into the air. Some kind of white phosphorus, most likely. We now see more vehicles burning, more vehicles exploding. We can see another one to the left of the burning one. Hopefully they'll get that one here in a minute. And they did! It's on fire too! Matthew, this one literally is steaming hot. Served on a platter. Like, look at it. When we're watching this one burn, you can actually see the steam coming off of this one.
I guess you could say it's crispy.
It is crispy. The crispy Colonel.
What was that supposed to imitate?
KFC, you know, the Colonel Sanders commercials.
Huh, I've never heard of those.
It's time for you to get the crispy. KFC has really gone bizarre lately with their ad campaigns. It's really weird. But we can now see the Ukrainians blanketing the entire area with an MLRS barrage, and the video will end just seconds later with a very cool outro. But of course, it's always great to see that the 25th Brigade is continuing to slam Russian units near Svatove, and hopefully soon they will be taking the town itself. Although we don't want to get into a lot of details there because, you know, once you get into a lot of details, that could get into operational security, which is one thing that we always want to ensure on this channel. And we won't go too long into that. I've said that a million times. If anyone asks, why does he care about operational security? If someone could answer anyone who asked that in the live chat, I'd be greatly appreciative. So with that, we're now going to be moving further south to the town of Milovatka, where we saw that some more Russian tanks were destroyed near the southern end of the town of Svatove. So we can see here the Russian tanks along this warehouse getting obliterated. Oh, wait a minute. What do we got here? What was that? So the tank got hit, and then the three stooges come running out of the tank and going into the warehouse.
That seemed like a genius idea. Run right into the building.
You know, it seems like a really genius idea to go from the armored vehicle that has a lot more armor than the warehouse, and then to go into the warehouse that doesn't even have a roof. The Russians and their intelligence astounds me daily. And at the end of this video, we can also see what appears to be a disabled and abandoned T-80BV, or a T... Well, no, it's a T-80BV that's been knocked out. And so it's nice to see. It looks like the Russians got two birds with one stone, and also the Three Stooges went running into the little storage compartment building that has been pretty much blown away. So with that in mind, it appears that the Ukrainians are inflicting a decent amount of vehicle and manpower casualties in the area of Svatove, and we can probably expect to see the Russian forces there will be weakened to a point that they can no longer continue, or they'll have to be heavily reinforced with older and less advanced Cold War equipment, which will lead to the casualty rate being much higher. Moving further on down the front, we do have some video evidence from day 251 that is several days older than that, but I wanted to show it because we never saw the aftermath or this video of 5 Msta-S SPGs, Russia's finest SPG in their entire armed forces, being destroyed in the town of Novolubivka just about a week or two ago, and we never got to see, which apparently was filmed yesterday, the aftermath of what happened to these Msta-S. So here's the video. When you hear the classical music playing, as the Ukrainian artillery starts to come down and knock out these Msta-S one by one, we can see large pillars of white smoke coming from each of them because they are laden with ammunition. And wow, it looks like the Ukrainians have figured out how to make a cheap and easy smokescreen with 5 simple steps to start it. It looks like all you have to do is destroy a Msta. And now we can see the aftermath of what happened. There's 1 Msta, 2 Msta-S. There's a third one out there somewhere, I believe. I can't really see it because of the watermark in the middle of the screen. No, wait a minute. 1 Msta, 2 Msta, 3 Msta. We got 3 Msta-S right here in a line. One of them was completely burned out. One of them looks like it suffered moderate to severe damage, but it did not burn down on the crew abandoning it. And this one just had an ammo detonation, and the turret just literally shredded to pieces. Well, you see one guy, of course, having fun on one of the Msta-S like it's a playground. We can see one of the well-burned-out Msta-S, but hey, the gun's still operational, and it looks quite clean. Quite a win-win. The Ukrainians could probably take that thing off the Msta-S and re-equip this thing as a towed artillery piece if they wanted to.
You know, if it wasn't, like, completely destroyed, that paint job actually is quite nice, that orange.
Yeah, I don't know.
It would stand out like a sore thumb, though.
See them looking at these 3 Msta-S, and we haven't seen the other 2 yet that were destroyed. But I like to see that the Ukrainians did destroy 3 SPGs in a nice little row. And while we continue to watch this video, I'm going to pull up the cost of a Msta-S on my second screen, so that way I can tell you how much in material losses there is right there in that one video. So, going off of what I can find... Let me just try and move my microphone a little bit closer right there. Yeah. let's see, I can't find an exact cost for it right now. 3 million apiece. So those 3 Msta-S in a row cost $9 million total. We can now see the 4th Msta-S destroyed over here, and I believe the 5th one was further to the right. So in total, around 15, yep, there's the 5th one. $15 million in SPGs were lost in this single video. When you think about that, it's unbelievable to think of that kind of monetary loss in a split second. We saw the artillery barrage from the air. It lasted only less than half a minute, and in half a minute, the Russians lost $15 million. You can't keep up a war losing that kind of equipment and also that kind of expenditure in seconds. So you can imagine how much this war is costing Russia monetarily. And also, we already know that's impacting them heavily economically. And for those 2 reasons, the war just can't go on. A lot of people think, kind of coming into this, that economics don't really matter when it comes to war. And it's not really right to think of war and economics in the same way. But by all means, they are exactly the same. Wars are usually an extenuation of economic circumstances and also strategic circumstances as well. But a continuation of a war, once it begins, is entirely economical. That's why you'll see that countries like Germany in the First and Second World Wars would begin to lose once their economy had been deprived of so much resources and activity that there was really nothing left for them to work off of. And you would also see that through all of history, but we won't go through all of the examples. But with that, that's the end of the video. And another $15 million of Russian SPGs lost in a single second. With that, we're now going to be moving out of that little bit of an older clip and further down into the area of Bielorivka, where we could see a Russian helicopter in action. A Russian Mi-35, as a matter of fact. The Russian helicopter force is something that the Russian Ministry of Defense loves to put out for the rest of the world to see, like in this clip right here. So let's see Russia's finest firing off unguided rockets. Look at that, they fired them off. They don't know where they're going. They don't know where they're landing. I'm sure a loading... Yep, there's the loading montage. Right on time. We can now see the helicopter taking off as not an Mi-35. It's an Mi-17, which is pretty much a transport helicopter. Oh, now we can see the Mi-35 taking off. Isn't that a totally different helicopter than the one we saw at the start? Didn't they have a different paint job? Hang on. Fellas, this is a different helicopter. That is not the same one, because this one's gray. This one had like some kind of a two-tone or a tricolor camo on it. We now see them flying low over the fields. And that is, wait a minute, that's not even an Mi-35 right here, because it's got retractable landing gear. Oh, come on. That's an Mi... They're so crappy at propaganda. Now, that's an Mi-35 right there. But this whole entire video is literally a massive mismatch of videos that they've clipped together to try and make one continuous story, so that way it has a happy ending. We can now see what appears to be maybe an Mi-35 coming into land. It does not have retractable landing gear, so that is an Mi-35. Totally different one than the start, because the one at the start had a tricolor camouflage. The one in the middle had a gray camouflage like the one over there. And now this one has a totally different weapons loadout, and it's in a bicolor camo. We can now see it landing, and that's the end of the video. But once again, the Russians can't make a good propaganda flick to save their lives. They can't even keep the continuity of the helicopter's camouflage in perspective, which shows you how little effort they were putting into this whole thing. And, of course, the Russian helicopter forces are not doing that well. We'll get to that a little bit later, though. If you stick around, you will see an Mi-8 get blown up. So with that, we're now going to be moving towards the area of Verkno-Kamyanske, which is very close to Verkno-Kamyanka. I think they're sister cities in terms of their names. But we can see an MLRS firing in the night. One of Ukraine's Beriev MLRSs as well. So real quick, we're going to hop over to Twitter and check this out. nice, like with the little, I guess you could say, sparks trickling back down to the ground, and it just gets illuminated here and there by the rocket's red glare. Hope y'all see what I did there. But with that, that's the end of the video. But once again, a really cool look at Bury of MLRSs firing off of the night and hopefully hitting their targets. We're not really sure about that, though, but still, it's nice to see that the Ukrainians' heavy artillery and heavy MLRSs are still hard at work defending the lines. With that, we're now going to be moving down to Berestove, where we are finally getting to the true situation of Russia's helicopter force. Here is a video of a run-of-the-mill, pretty normal at this point, Mi-8 from the Russian army, or I'm not really sure who they've integrated their helicopters with, because I've heard the Russian Air Force has some, and I've also seen that the Russian army has helicopters as well, so I don't really know whose helicopter this was, but it was a Russian one, and we did see it get obliterated. We hear some music playing, which we'll have to mute. But here comes the Mi-8 flying in. It makes a very bad move. It decides to... Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. It decides to get shot down. Oh, no. Well, you can see it's continuing to fly. Fires engulf the whole left side of the helicopter, but Evan, it's okay. We're flying best helicopter in the Russian Federation. That should be able to make it home. Looks like they might be struggling to keep control of the thing now.
Might be a little toasty in there right now.
Might be a little warm. They might want to get out a blanket and start beating the side of the helicopter with it. Well,
like, seriously, though, I don't know how they can withstand the heat.
I really don't either. It looks like the helicopter's not really withstanding it, because now it's just smoking like it's a smoker on a beehive. And now we can see that it came to an untriumphant end and actually flipped head over heels, upside down, and now the fire is engulfing the entire helicopter. And so then, that's the end of the video, but I gotta say, you gotta give them credit for at least trying to recover the helicopter after it got hit, but I think if they saw the massive fire outside, which I think is really hard to miss, I think they would have realized that it was unrecoverable, and they ought to have ditched before it just kept on flying and then flipped over in the field, because now that's a pretty tough situation. So with that, we're now going to be moving on from that little clip and on into the next, further down the lines into the area of Soledar, where we've seen some Ukrainian tanks in action. A very rare thing to see in a war like this is Ukrainian tanks in action. Usually, Ukraine heavily revolves around their infantry to carry on the fight at the front lines with a small amount of tank support, but here in this video, we saw the opposite. We saw tanks operating almost independently from the infantry fighting the Russians, which shows that the Ukrainians definitely are taking the initiative, and that they've now found it to be in such good favor for them in this war that they can now use vehicles this brazenly without losing them. And so here's the video. You can see these guys hanging out on a BMP-1 as this Ukrainian T-72, I believe it may be, is right in front of them. Also, Matthew, I remember you asked about a week ago, where are the logs? There's one right there.
Oh. And wait a minute, that's on the Ukrainian tank?
Yeah, that's on the yeah. I mean, like that's a typical thing to put on all tanks. You know, you got to have a log.
I thought that was a Russian thing.
No. I mean, like Americans don't do it because, you know, we're a little too posh for that. But in countries where there's a massive amount of mud, or if you're a bit of a poorer country and can't really pay for, you know, modern advanced equipment, logs work incredibly well. You can detach this thing from the tank and put it down in front of the tracks, where the tracks will pretty much scoop it under the tank, and it can get a little bit of traction from the log. And so the theory is that it can dislodge itself from difficult circumstances just by the extra traction that the log can provide. So the Ukrainians use these a pretty decent bit as well. Locust Mortis, real quick, I'd like to address this. Locust Mortis said it in the correct way. It's an unditching beam. I was going through the whole entire layman's way of explaining it because I didn't think of the name, but that's correct. Thank you. So we're gonna reverse that. That thing's a ditching beam, pretty much a cheap version of it. So with that, we're gonna let the video continue. we see them slowly backing up down the road. The T-72 is finally fired and right into the tree line in front of them. We can see the smoke coming up from the round as the Ukrainian infantry continue to watch. Also notice that they all have some pretty high-end helmets, something that you will not see anymore on Russian forces.
That vehicle sounds like an old Harley.
It does, doesn't it? It has a good sound.
Sounds pretty sick.
See the tank firing again. And believe it or not, man, that might be the fastest reverse speed that this tank can go in. Russian tanks only have one reverse gear. They're still backing up. The tank in front of them is still looking into the same area of the tree line and may fire again. They've now elevated the gun for a second. The tank is now turning to the left, and now it looks like it's going to eke itself out into the field. Quite a risky move this time of year for the most part, but the ground does look somewhat drier in this area. We can now see that the BMP-1 is now advancing down the road as well. It's now taking a left turn and moving out into the field with the T-72. I wonder how that little decline would have gone if Tony was driving the BMP.
Oh no.
Tony would have floored it off and just thrown everyone off. Now see the BMP and the T-72 continuing to advance through the field. Here, the T-72 up front firing its machine gun into the tree line. Apparently there are Russian soldiers up there, but they don't have any AT weapons to fight back with because we haven't seen anything fired. Wait a minute, correction, we actually saw something fired right there at the Ukrainian tank. It missed, however. The Ukrainian tank is now facing itself towards the direction that it looks like the shell came from. It's now continuing to advance. The BMP is following right behind it, exactly in its tracks. We now see another explosion in the field. It looks like the Russians are trying to fire at the tank, but they cannot hit it due to their poor accuracy. The infantry are now dismounting from the BMP and now getting behind the BMP, most likely to continue advancing through the field. With that, that's the end of the video, but a really interesting look, and also really crazy to see that the tank at the end of the video was coming under fire, and really close, but still missing, and yet still, the Ukrainian tank and the BMP continue to advance even under fire. And so, of course, huge credit. You've always got to keep this in perspective, because up through this entirety of the war, I always talk incredibly positively about the Ukrainian forces, how they're, dominating on the Russians, and they are. But one thing you always have to remember is that it's still a difficult fight. In the First World War, the United States, once they arrived in France, they dominated against the Germans in pretty much every single battle they participated in. But it was still a very tough time, and it was a very rough road for the Americans, and we would end up losing in pretty much less than 8 months. We were in the war for 11 months, but really over there, seriously, for around 8 months, we would end up losing 50,000 soldiers. And so while it was a triumphant victory when the United States arrived in World War I, it was still at quite a cost and quite difficult to achieve. And the Ukrainians, while they are inflicting massive casualties on the Russians, a comparison of 5 Russians for every 1 Ukrainian, they still have to deal with pretty adverse situations on the front line like that, and you got to give them a massive load of credit for dealing with it. And so with that, we're now going to be moving further south towards Bakhmut itself, where we also saw that the Fighting 93rd was in action in Bakhmut and inflicting some pretty decent damage against the Russians there. And so with that, here's the video, and courtesy to Radio Free Europe for providing the video. And so with that, here it is.
Вертушка. Воздух, вертушка!
I'll see them getting an in-law ready. Now they're firing a heavy mortar.
Не один, це хуяре. Да, сьогодні заруба може бути.
Dude, Matthew, that guy looks like someone I knew at college.
This guy?
Yeah, he does. He looks just like him.
Maybe it's him.
And maybe it is him. I don't know how he's coming to class and being in the war, but kudos to him. And now see him sighting in the mortar.
Заходять, наші дають опір хороший, і вони буквально практично там недовго бой затягуються, і вони все починають розбігатися. Ну, при хороших розкладах.
Good lord!
Was that an unusually large, like, mortar round?
I believe this
That
thing,
looked huge.
I believe this thing is a 120mm mortar, or it could be a bit of a rarer, heavier mortar than that. 120mm is considered heavy. This thing looks like it may be a little bit bigger than 120. Maybe like 150 or 155. I'm not entirely sure on that, so don't quote me on that. But the sound of this thing was monstrous. It sounded like a Minenwerfer from the First World War. God! I mean, the sound of that is terrifying. Let's listen to that one more time, and then we're going to let the video continue. Good lord, that's nuts.
Головне ціль їхня взяти Донецьку область, тобто хоч щось зробити. Хоч якісь у них були такі масивні успіхи, показати зі своєї сторони, що вони щось можуть.
Бахмут представляет собой стратегически важную цель для российской армии, для частной компании Вагнера, с точки зрения того, что контроль над Бахмутом открывает контроль над основным, скажем так, индустриальным комплексом Донбасса. Города, которые находятся чуть западнее от него: Краматорск, Дружковка, Константиновка, Славянск.
А там никто не откроет дверь. Так все, забирай, сейчас котов заберем и все. Никак не... Надеялись, что, скорее всего, все это закончится все-таки в нашу пользу, будем сказать. Или хотя бы будут какие-то условия. Но условий никаких, месяц, если не больше, без ничего, грубо говоря. А в последнее время погода такая, что в квартире 6 градусов тепла.
С Бахмут.
I see them driving through a town and looking at a MiG-17 on a pedestal.
Там бахают, с этой стороны бахают. И нормально, везде. 5-й этаж, крыша проломлена. 3 дня назад прилет.
Вчора в нашому підрозділі було без втрат, дякувати Богові, але, наприклад, є 7 загиблих звичайних цивільних, які загинули там у своїх дворах, в огородах і так далі. Тобто це говорить про те, що тактика ворога ніяк не змінилась, він як гатив по житлових будинках і по приміщеннях, так і продовжує свою тактику.
See them looking back at their success on video.
Благодаря неожиданному штурму, который был предпринят военнослужащими ЗСУ, подразделений Национальной патрульной полиции, Национальной гвардии, сил специальных операций. Враг был отброшен на приблизительно 2 километра от юго-восточных границ, и подразделения ЗСУ зашли в индустриальную застройку.
See him firing the mortar again.
Бахмут Україна, Бахмут стоїть і Бахмут буде Україна.
And of course, courtesy to Radio Free Europe for providing that video of the Fighting 93rd, of course, continuing to hold the line against the Russians. And as we can see, they still hold Bakhmut to this day. And so with that, we're now going to be moving into Bakhmut city itself because, of course, with the high notes comes a low note occasionally. And we can see that, of course, the Russians are committing war crimes as usual. Whenever they're thwarted in any kind of offensives that they have planned, they start to take it out directly on the civilian population. Here we can see that they start to use incendiaries, such as white phosphorus, against Bakhmut itself. And so here's a video of white phosphorus falling on the outskirts of Bakhmut city. Raining down on dozens, if not hundreds, of residential buildings, and if anyone's caught outside, they could be burned to death immediately, and if they're inside of their houses, this could cause fires that will burn their houses down around them, and then they'll be forced outside into the white phosphorus anyways. It's a sickening thing to see. And of course, something that we've almost become accustomed to, seeing how sick and vicious the Russians can be whenever they don't win or achieve their objectives on the front lines. They start to take it out directly against the civilians themselves. And while we've seen so much of this kind of stuff that a lot of people may be becoming desensitized to it, it's still important to point out that that stuff is atrocious. It's a war crime. And that Russians should be held accountable for this, and the only way that the West, so far, can hold them accountable is to continue economic sanctions after the war, at least based off of what we're doing right now. If, you know, and of course there's always the option of joining in the war and participating, but of course it doesn't look like we'll be doing that anytime soon. It looks like we'll continue to support Ukraine from afar and continue to punish the Russians economically. With that, we're now going to be moving out of the Bakhmut area, but of course, before we do, we have not seen any major frontline movements in any part of Ukraine today. Also, especially in the northeast and around the Bakhmut area, the Ukrainians have been holding the lines incredibly well here, but we have seen that the Russians have been taking considerable losses going up against Ukrainian troops, and the losses appear to be at a higher rate now over the past 4 days or so than any other point in the war, even during the initial week when the Russians were taking some of their highest casualties, because there was a lot of confusion and the front lines were not solidified whatsoever. And so with that, we're now going to be moving out of the Bakhmut area and further south towards Avdiivka, where we saw some more Ukrainian artillery in action, and they were doing quite well. But before we get to that, I've seen that Matthew's throwing up some pretty interesting polls, and I want to see what y'all have all voted on as y'all's, I guess, opinions on those polls. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so let's hit those two polls that were put up a while back. The first one said, do you think the Russians' trench is camouflaged well, or is it a sitting duck? It looks like 81% said it is horribly camouflaged, and it is a sitting duck. 10% said I don't know, and 8% said it's camouflaged well, effective. Now, what I will say is I think it is camouflaged well, but it's camouflaged with the worst thing possible. An ammo crate out in the open, that's terrible. What a horrible idea. But Enforcer, what do you think?
I would have to agree with the 80% of y'all that was a terrible way to camouflage the entrance to a bunker. Usually you want to make yourself less of a target with camouflage. That camouflage only made them more of a target because a drone pilot is going to look down at that and be like, oh, sweet, look, I can destroy some artillery and be able to record it and report it back to my command. It drops a mortar round into that thing, or a bomblet, and it will pass right through, and all of that shrapnel is going to go straight down that little hobble hole and right into their hiding spot at the bottom. So not really a smart move, and not the best way to camouflage the thing. Terrible idea all around. And so now that we've addressed that, and it's good to know that around 80% of y'all thought the same, because to me, it's quite obvious it's not good at all. We're now going to be moving on into the next poll.
All right, and the next poll said, taking suggestions, what topic are you most interested in for the next video? It looks like 40% said China's secret police and surveillance, 30% said Russia's propaganda strategies, 11% said Putin's rise to power and life, and 19% said none of the above. Now on this one, I have to say I was about to make the last video that I just put out about Putin's rise to power, but luckily I didn't, because actually it looks like it's pretty unpopular according to the poll. It looks like the most popular option is China's secret police, which is actually the option I was most excited about. So that's good to hear. But Enforcer, what do you think?
I would have to say, out of all of them, I think that the Chinese secret police would probably be the most interesting one to cover. Hopefully here in the future, I'll be able to finally get towards starting a video segment myself. Funnily enough, speaking of which, I actually ran into someone at college today that might be able to help out with thumbnails. So, might be trying to see about getting some really interesting thumbnails thrown onto those videos, if that works out. But still, really cool to think about, and hopefully that all comes together in the background. But it does seem like Chinese secret police would be a pretty good one, and I currently have plans to start off a new series. I'm not going to say what it is, and I'm not even going to give a time when it may start coming out, because I am not really sure when it will be coming out, because things in the background are quite busy. And while I love to think that I have nothing but time to always start diverting towards this YouTube channel, college takes up an incredibly long amount of time in the background these days. Massive papers to be written, have to go to college in person. It's a lot, and every time I'm like, oh, I'll finally make a video, I never can get to it because there's just no free time to be had. But still, good luck to Matthew on his videos. The last one was incredibly good. I had to give it an A+. The content was great. The presentation was good. And it looks like a lot of y'all enjoyed it as well. And so with that, I hope that addresses that poll fairly well. And it looks like we've had another one put up. We're going to give that one a little while, though, until a lot of people vote on it. Right now, around 700 of y'all voted on it.
Well, actually, Enforcer, it might be better to cover it now because we still have context to the last video.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So let's go ahead and cover this one.
All right, so the question on this poll said, do you think the use of white phosphorus in this instance is a war crime that we saw in that last video? It looks like 89% said yes, it's being used on civilians, 8% said I'm not sure, and 4% said no evidence of civilian use. Now, in this one, that definitely looked like residential houses from what I saw in the video, and that's definitely not permitted in war. At least it's outlawed by provisions. But Enforcer, what do you think?
It's clearly a war crime, and for real quick to explain America's rules of engagement in Iraq and Afghanistan, and of course I know someone's about to say, the opposite. In Iraq and Afghanistan, the rules of engagement were that if you could not confirm that there were no civilians in that building, by no means could you fire at it, drop a bomb on it, or anything similar. You just had to leave it alone. So that actually came, and of course, I know someone's about to say, that's not true. I actually know someone who was in Afghanistan, and I asked them a lot about their time over there and their stories, and they told me that due to America's rules of engagement and how they had to follow them, the Taliban and the Mujahideen, which was still active at the time over there, and they kind of still are, would use children as shields, and so the Taliban or the Mujahideen would gather up some kids, and they would start walking down the street with an AK, and they would look at the fob that this commander was at. They would just fire at it, and the Americans could do nothing in response. They couldn't fire back at the guy because there's kids around him. What if, a machine gunner gets out an M60, starts spraying the guy, and he kills 8 kids? You can't do that because of the rules of engagement. So they would just have to sit there and receive fire from the guy until they could either get a marksman to take him out, which takes a lot of time, and it would require this guy to move around a lot, or they just have to sit there and wait for the guy to get done and then walk off. So going off of that, you can see how strict America's rules of engagement were, and we had to be certain every single time that there were no civilians around whatsoever before we did anything like that, like, hitting anything with that was a civilian structure. The Russians blanketing an area with white phosphorus like we saw in Bakhmut, there is absolutely no way that they went and made sure that each and every one of those houses was devoid of civilians, and so they did commit a war crime there, because for all we know, almost every single one of those houses could have had a civilian in it. And so with that, I hope that addresses that poll fairly well. A pretty interesting one at that. And so, let's get a couple of questions from the chat as well before we move on, because it looks like we've had some interesting questions.
All right, so up first from our super chats, we have a $50 donation from none other than Magic Skygirl, who says, Enforcer Matt, that was a great video yesterday. Enforcer, when do you think Ukraine might hit the Kerch Bridge again? I want it now. And real quick, Enforcer, before you answer that question, Magic Skygirl, thank you very much for the support, and also thank you for the high praises of the video, and it really does mean a lot, and there will be more coming soon.
And thank you so much once again for the support, Magic Scargirl. You've helped out this channel a whole load, and I thank you so much because y'all's support is the only thing that helps us to keep running. Of course, while college is a massive distraction in the background from putting 100% effort into this channel, it also helps me to keep going to college. And so thank you so much once again for the support. And also, to address that, I want it now too. I want the Kerch Bridge to be taken out completely. Hopefully next time, instead of hitting the road bridge, because honestly, who cares about the road bridge? The railroad bridge is far more important. Hopefully next time they'll be hitting the railroad bridge. Sadly, we won't have an indication when that will happen. It's impossible to really gauge because there was no timetable to the last one. It came as a complete surprise and a complete shock to us when we were on air last time that the Crimean Bridge was taken out on our stream. So sadly, I have no idea when it'll happen. The first time was quite devastating to the Russians. The second time will be detrimental to them because it'll knock out most likely the remainder of the bridge that's intact. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, Magic Skygirl. I hope we were able to address that comment fairly well. And also, thank you so much for sending kind words to Matthew's way, because one thing that a lot of people don't know is that kind words do mean a lot. And we don't like to get in the weeds too much. Also, Matthew, we got a bot right there. But we don't want to get into the weeds too much about negative comments and things like that. But while you can get like a 98%, 98.4% like rate, every once in a while when you get a negative comment, you're like, oh man, that's kind of sad. And so a positive comment, like, thank you so much. It's great. You're doing great. It does mean a lot to us. And we appreciate you so much for sending kind words our way, because it really does help us out a whole load, and it helps us to keep feeling like what we're doing is good and that the channel should keep running. And so with that, I thank you so much once again. It does mean a lot to us. And with that, we are going to be moving on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $20 super chat from Jose Ruano, also another channel legend, who says, do you think since Russia has shown how weak it really is, that Chechnya will be able to get away, will be willing to get away from Russian dominance and break away for independence as well as any other republic in the Federation?
I would have to say it's plausible, because we have to remember that the Chechens immediately started to break away from the Soviet Union, well, the Russian Federation, as soon as the Soviet Union dissolved. It almost happened immediately. And so with that in mind, it wouldn't be too out of the question to say that that would happen again if the Russian Federation went through a serious governmental change and a new government came into power that was not under Putin. It is entirely plausible that that could happen, because one thing that everyone has to remember is that while Russia may not fracture into itty-bitty pieces, the entirety of the country may not do that. At the same time, if Putin is overthrown, there will be a power vacuum, and power will have to be reestablished across the entirety of the country. Loyalties will have to be checked. People will have to be brought back into line with the new government. And so there's going to be a lot of leeway for people to get away with a whole bunch of stuff. Of course, crime will probably become rampant in Russia if a new government's formed, because governmental control will not be there. And of course, that's saying that crime isn't already rampant in Russia, and from what everyone knows, Russia is pretty much run by a mafia under Putin, so crime is pretty rampant. It's just that they don't call it crime, they call it governmental control. But crime will once again just go completely bonkers, and the Russian government will probably be so busy trying to deal with getting that in control or getting these thugs on their payroll that something like Chechnya splitting away or becoming a lot more autonomous would probably go under the radar again for several years until they could get back down there to try and deal with it. And by then, it would be too late. Chechnya would probably become autonomous again. And this time, due to Russia's weakened state and also what we've been dealing with right now in our current day, we may see that Western support would start to flood in from Georgia and into Chechnya to help them to keep defending themselves against the Russians. And so with that, I hope that addresses the question fairly well. A great one all around. I really like that one. And so with that, thank you so much once again. Thank you for being a longtime member of the Lee Spring Army and helping us to keep this thing running. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again.
All right, and up next, we have a $20 super chat from A Little Bridge 120, who says, just wondering how the video was going. Also, if you ever have time, Google my username. I think you'll enjoy the history, and please pick a question from the chat.
And thank you so much for the support. And real quick, what is his name again, Matthew?
A Little Bridge 120.
A Little Bridge 120. Let me pull that up real quick. A Little Bridge 120. I'm getting a lot of stuff for A Little Bridge 120. But I can see... hang on. Hang on. I think this
That sounds worrisome.
You gotta check this one here. Let's see here. Hang on.
Enforcer's brain is ticking.
Yeah, it's ticking because this looks similar to another bridge that I've told you about, Matthew, from a place in Mississippi. But I do thank you.
Oh.
Yeah, but I do thank you so much for the support. It looks similar. It looks like it's in Indiana, though. But it is a pretty cool bridge. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that part of the comment fairly well. And real quick, let's get a live chat sponsored by A Little Bridge 120.
All right, and that question goes to Oats Air, who says, why do you think the Russians always show clip of the loading of the rockets?
The Russians always show that clip, I think mostly because they think it makes them look good or makes them look cool, one way or the other, because they're like, oh, look, you know, we're so prepared for mission, we load the rocket, but it just, it comes...
Oh, go ahead, Enforcer.
It comes off as cliche, and it's, I don't really know why they keep showing that, honestly, but I gotta say, I'm tired of watching it. It's really dumb to look at. If you show it once, great. If you show it in every single video wherever unguided rockets are being fired off, then it gets incredibly annoying. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the question. I hope we did answer it fairly well. And also, it looks like you said a little bridge, Matthew, and it's actually Addle Bridge. So real quick.
Yes, when I put it into the spreadsheet, it's spell corrected to a little bridge, and apparently it didn't keep what I put in it.
So real quick, this is actually RAF Addle Bridge, which we will pull up on Google Maps. So Addle Bridge in Norwich. So let's see here. I'm supposing that'll be nearby to Addle Bridge. Yeah, there it is. Here it is, RAF Addle Bridge. Let's go take a look at it. Well, it looks like now it's become a derelict runway, Top Gear kind of style, with some solar farms on it. And also, it looks like most of the buildings around have been abandoned as well. It's a derelict airfield, and we can also see a couple of wind turbines here as well. But let's see what we got for reviews. Let's see, a wonderful array of flying machines are available here. I doubt it, because it doesn't really look like an active airbase anymore. But let's see if we can find anything on it on the internet. RAF Addle Bridge. So, RAF Addle Bridge is a Royal Air Force station located near Addle Bridge. Of course, it's been out of service for quite some while. Let's see here. In use from 1941 to 1950. So it's actually been out of use for quite a while. It looks like the last time it was used was pretty much in the Second World War. We can also see a whole bunch of Douglas D-20s? I don't think that's the actual name for these things. But we can see some A-20s. I think that's what it is. An A-20 Attacker, the British version of it, here at Addle Bridge. And that is really cool to see. That's actually pretty neat. And it's crazy to think that's still around in a way for this long. We can also see a picture of it here in 1946, what it looked like. Of course, the same runway layout. It looks like one of them have been shortened down a whole load, though. It looks like it's been reclaimed by the forest or the surrounding farmlands. But man, that was like a whole massive airbase. A whole bunch of taxiways, fuel dumps. It's very sizable to say the least. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support, Addle Bridge 120, and I thank you so much for sharing with us this airbase. For a while there, I thought you were just showing us a bridge in Indiana, but it was actually an airbase in Norwich in the United Kingdom. Also Norwich, I've never been there, but I've heard interesting things about it. And so with that, we are now going to be moving on into, I believe, the next question, if we have one, and if that was the third question, we won't be. So what are we at, Matthew?
That was actually the third one.
All right, and so with that, we've rounded out this question segment, and we're now going to be moving on into our final segment of news for the night, starting off in Donetsk, near Avdiivka, where we saw today more Ukrainian artillery in action. Of course, this video is also provided by Radio Free Europe as well. They do some incredibly good reporting. They are funded by the U.S. government, so, you know, keep that in mind. Why keep that in mind? They report pretty accurate news, but they are funded by the U.S. government, and so it actually is copyright free. So we get to show it and get to see what they are also reporting as well. So here's the video. We can see the Ukrainians firing off the crab.
Тільки вуха позакривайте.
See them ramming the charges home.
Там міняємося через там пару тижнів. Бої приїжджають. От іменно тут я працюю десь 1,5 місяця.
І от за ці 1,5 місяці більше стало, менше? Як ви відчуваєте?
Зразу було нормально, ми працювали, зараз менше.
Як думаєте, чому?
Ну, тому що одігнали трохи.
Dang, that thing is tall.
Yeah, it's a pretty big SPG.
Like, I had no idea it was that tall.
Тепліше, навіть спати можна, удобніше.
І часто доводиться спати?
Постоянно. Ну, ми тут живемо.
I mean, the guy asked him, "Do you sleep in here?" Like it doesn't look like a 2-bed, 2-bath apartment in this thing. Like it's huge. Like it's like, yeah, of course you're sleeping in it. There's a bedroom down there.
Все, хай там лежить. Настрій бойовий.
You now see them getting the charges.
2.
А це до них що йде?
3. Це заряди.
Секунду заряду. А що такий довгий
4. Та він от тубусом, то він викинув його. 5.
We now see them fire the crab.
Безпілотники літають, втікаємо від них. Ми коли стріляємо, я там не чую цього безпілотника. Немає часу на нього дивитися. Так почули, побачили, якщо завіз, то перекат. Краще, якщо безпілотники не літали, щоб дощі були, а для нас краще, щоб така погода хоча б була.
Ну ви ж ніби всередині.
Та всередині їздити трохи погано по болоті. Скільки там залишилось? Один огірок остався.
Man, that thing is mean.
Ти зможеш відпрацювати по одній цілі і то. Не знаю, чи...
Да, пиши, що їдемо на загрузку, бо мало осталось.
You now see them moving the crab out of the tree line. And with that, that's the end of the video. But of course, credit to Radio Free Europe that once again provided an interesting insight to how the crab works. Also, one other thing I'd like to point out to y'all is that the crab is so large that when we see this man right here, and let me pull up a picture of a crab SPG. Crab SPG. So like, keep this in mind going forward. That's a crab SPG from the outside. Doesn't look that big in the picture, but when this man is standing inside of the SPG, he's standing completely upright in that thing, and his head just reaches the turret ring, which means that his head is right there on this tank. That's how tall it is.
That's crazy.
Like, that's a massive SPG. It's huge. I mean, like, there's enough room for you to fit, like, 5 guys, burgers, and fries in that thing and have even more room. Like, maybe even for a McDonald's. Y'all get the joke, y'all get it. So with that, that's the end of that little video. And we're now going to be moving down further south into the Donetsk region towards the area of Marinka, where we saw a couple of Russian jets in action. So here's the video. When you see the drone zooming in, we can see what appears to be 2 Russian aircraft flying over. They look like Su-25s. See them popping off some... Well, actually, they were dropping bombs right there, right onto Marinka. Now see them dropping some more. Or those were rockets of some sort. I can't really tell you for certain. You can see how desolate and destroyed Marinka is when you look at it from the air. You can see that every single building in the town has been completely destroyed at this point. I mean, you still see the clouds of smoke rising from those rockets, I'm believing, that were fired over there. They must have been the larger caliber rockets that we saw before on a Ukrainian Su-25. And so with that, That's the end of the video. We don't know if anything was hit down there. We can't really confirm that. But one thing we can see is that the Russians are using their Air Force a little bit, although they have suffered pretty high casualties over the course of this war in the Donetsk region. Moving on over towards the area of Starolimnivka, which is a very hard word to say, we can see that the 79th Brigade was also destroying tanks in this area as well. Here we can see a Russian tank near another destroyed Russian tank, kind of a little bit of foreshadowing in a way, and the tank is now moving forward near some very well-made trenches, which lets us know that they must have been Ukrainian. And now we can see that that tank apparently got acclimated to Ukraine. Someone said, "Welcome to Ukraine," and hit it. We can now see another, what appears to be a BMP on fire and smoking as well, and it appears that the crew's already abandoned it. With that, that's the end of the video, but a pretty interesting look at the 79th Brigade and how they are continuing to knock out Russian forces in the area. Also, to keep in mind real quick, in the Donetsk region, since we didn't recap the front line here, we are seeing that Russian forces are conducting some kind of a small offensive in this area, but it appears that they're taking no ground and they're taking on casualties instead. We're now going to be returning back to the southern front after that short little segment, and we're now going to be moving towards Rykov, where today we saw that a Ukrainian Mi-8 or an Mi-17 was firing off rockets right above the soldiers. And so here's the video, a really cool one at that. And so without further ado, here it is. So the helicopter tilting out, firing off its rockets. Now see it popping off flares as it dives back towards the ground and back on its way. And so with that, we're going to be moving to a second video that actually shows a longer version of this and also at a different perspective. It was actually well filmed from what we can tell. And so here's a video of helicopters in the same area firing off their unguided rockets. Also note the muddy slush in the ground. We can now see that second helicopter once again hitting the tank and popping off its flares.
О, це відос! Слава Україні, ублюдки, сука!
Dang.
They fired up the redneck truck in the background.
You know, honestly, they did this, man. They said, "Slava Ukraini," and then they just turned on the Bentley 8-liter over there. You know, they're about to start racing through 1920s Britain. Listen to that again. Wait, hang on. Right here.
That boy's about to go mudding.
And now they're on their way back through the muddy fields of Ukraine, but of course, after watching a really nice show from the Ukrainian helicopter forces, the Mi-17s in particular, and hopefully their rockets hit their mark. We don't really know for certain. We couldn't see that, but still a very nice thing to see, and also quite a nice sounding engine as well. With that, we're now going to be moving out of the southern front, and while we do have some news to report from this area, it appears that there has been no major frontline shifts. Of course, this area, while we do see a pickup of activity here and there, is incredibly static, and I believe that we will most likely not see any changes in activity here for quite some while. However, in Zaporizhia, we did see that Ukrainian air defenses successfully shot down some Russian cruise missiles, and so here's a video of them shooting these missiles down in broad daylight. It's quite a short one, but you see one explosion in the air of a missile being intercepted and a second one. And with that, that's the end of that video, but it's nice to see that the Ukrainian air defenses, we're not really sure what kind of air defenses these were able to intercept and shoot down these cruise missiles before they can make it to their targets, and of course most likely hit civilians. With that, we're now going to be moving out of Zaporizhia. From that great news of seeing that Ukraine's air defenses appear to be becoming more effective at this point, we of course don't have effectiveness percentages, but we do see that on video evidence it appears that the defenses are improving. Moving on down into the Kherson area, we have a couple of bits of news, not a lot of them, but on day 252 we did see some battles occurring in the south once again. And so real quick, let me throw us over to Twitter so that way we can watch this little clip.
Away.
And real quick, let me mute that. I don't know what kind of music that is, but it's not the music we're listening to. When you see the soldiers get down from an artillery shot, when you now see them running down the road. You now see them firing from the back of an MTLB or a BMP as it's moving down the road. It looks like some artillery is exploding in the field nearby. I'm not sure if that's a BMP or what. I think it may actually be some kind of a BTR. We can see a tank following behind them. Some artillery landing nearby. The Ukrainians still moving forward. It actually was a BMP. Now see them advancing through the fields in a large armored column. Now see them passing an abandoned BTR-82. Now they're inside of a tree line. Ooh, that guy's got a nice rifle. I don't even know what kind that is. I know that someone's about to try and say it right off the silhouette. I honestly cannot tell you, but it does have a suppressor on it, a nice scope, and it looks like some kind of a marksman rifle, but I'm not really sure what kind. We can see a round flying down the side of the tree line, and now you see some artillery landing by these troops as they're driving pretty quickly out of the area. Well, that's the end of the video, but once again showing you what the Ukrainian forces are doing in the southern front, and from what we know, they are eking a little bit of ground each day right now. It doesn't appear that they fully committed to an offensive, but they are taking advantage of weak points wherever they can find them. Moving on into day 251 in the news, we also saw another UR-77 meteorite clearing a path here in Kherson as they continue to advance in the area. So here's the video. You hear some rap music playing. We can see that the meteorite has already laid out its line charge, and it's about to explode it. We can see it detonate in the tree line, which was very interesting to see. And now a path has been cleared. The UR-77 meteorite usually has a pretty high success rate when using these explosive charges to clear out mines because it literally turns the ground into, I guess you could say, churned earth. So it blows up pretty much everything in there, including the ground itself. So you're just driving through pretty much a long trench-like crater, although it's not that deep. So with that, we're now going to be moving on into the last bit of news from the Kherson area, where we saw that the Ukrainians were firing off another M777, of course, British design and most likely American provided, and hopefully hitting targets downrange. And so, here's the video. See them ramming the round and the charge. Oh, he almost tripped right there. And there he goes, on its way, and hopefully hitting Russian targets downrange. But we're not exactly sure about that. And so with that, that's the end of that clip. And right now, while I did say earlier that we know that the Ukrainians are making some advances in the Kherson area, we don't know exactly where, and we don't have any video evidence to show where Ukrainian forces are. And if we did, we wouldn't show it due to operational security reasons. But it is still good to know that the Ukrainians are taking advantage of any situation that they find to their advantage in the Kherson area, and they are eking forward little by little, front by front. And so with that, we're now going to be moving out of the Kherson area and all the way back up north to Kyiv, where we have the speech from President Zelenskyy. Of course, this is going to be rounding out our news segment for the night, and so without further ado, here is the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy on day 252 of the war in Ukraine.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці. Сьогодні продовжив нашу дипломатичну активність для того, щоб світ міцно відреагував на чергову російську ескалацію і на терор проти наших енергетичних об'єктів, і на спробу Росії знову загострити продовольчу кризу. Говорив з президентом Франції Еммануелем Макроном, подякував йому за вже надану підтримку та поінформував про наші нагальні потреби, передусім в обороні. Повітряний щит для України має бути. Сьогодні це чітко прозвучало. Ми обговорили з Еммануелем цілком конкретні проекти і для посилення нашого захисту, і для відбудови зруйнованих об'єктів. Ставка терористів на зиму абсолютно прозора для усіх. І цей виклик має розглядатись саме як виклик проти усієї Європи. Будь-які зимові труднощі Москва подаватиме у своїй пропаганді як нібито доказ неспроможності об'єднаної Європи. Тож разом маємо довести терористам, що неспроможність – це слово про них, а не про Європу. Домовились провести дві дуже важливі події. Перша в грудні у Франції предметно щодо усіх викликів зими, від енергетики до фінансів, від зброї до захисту неба. А друга подія, щоб зібрати бізнес Франції, допомагати Україні. Проговорили з президентом Макроном ситуацію з нашим продовольчим експортом. Цими днями рух суден з української агропродукції продовжився, передусім завдяки принциповості партнерів, саме ООН і Туреччини, які не сприймають російські намагання знищити зернову угоду. Але потрібен надійний і довгостроковий захист зерновому коридору. Росія має чітко знати, що отримує жорстку відповідь світу на будь-які кроки, які зривають наш продовольчий експорт. Це питання буквально про життя для десятків мільйонів людей. Зокрема, і про це говорив сьогодні з прем'єр-міністром Камбоджі. Ця країна зараз головує в АСЕАН, одному з найпотужніших світових об'єднань. Це більше 600 мільйонів людей в 10 країнах. І для кожної з цих країн продовольча криза – це реальна загроза національної безпеці. Якщо ціни на продовольство через російську агресію зростатимуть, якщо на продовольчому ринку утвориться дефіцит, то це неминуче призведе до катастрофічних наслідків в більшості країн АСЕАН, як і в інших регіонах світу. Тому тиск на Росію заради гарантій продовольчої безпеки потрібен зараз від усіх і від азійських країн також. Працюємо заради цього. Сьогодні відбувся візит у Київ єврокомісара з питань енергетики Кадрі Сімпсон. Свого часу вона дуже допомагала нам в процесі приєднання України до загальноєвропейської енергомережі. Це те, що значно посилило Україну. І зараз ми почули від пані єврокомісара потрібні сигнали підтримки. Обговорили ініціативу створення такого формату, який як військовий Рамштайн зможе працювати заради нашої спільної безпеки, але саме концентровано в енергетичній площині, щось на кшталт енергетичного Рамштайну. Кошти, техніка, підтримка, трансформатори, генератори, енергоносії – це те, що життєво необхідно нашому захисту. Також обговорили допомогу конкретним містам і громадам, таким як Миколаїв, Нікополь, Харків та іншим, які зазнають постійного російського терору буквально щодня і щоночі. Я поінформував пані єврокомісара про ліквідацію наслідків вчорашнього масованого російського удару по нашій енергетиці, по наші потреби у зв'язку з такими ударами. За підсумками візиту маємо багато робочих домовленостей. Станом на цей час ми можемо прозвітувати, що для усіх споживачів в Україні вже відновлено технічну можливість водопостачання, для більшості також і технічну можливість постачання електрики. Стабілізаційні відключення тривають у 9 регіонах України. Енергетики і місцева влада роблять усе, щоб скоротити час відключень. Не варто забувати і про те, що без перерви продовжуються відновлювальні роботи на територіях, які були звільнені від окупантів. На Харківщині, на Донбасі, на півдні країни. Наприклад, вже більше 20 тисяч споживачів у звільнених районах Харківської області отримали постачання газу. У Вовчанську, у Балаклії та інших містах відновлюються системи для теплопостачання. Ми зробимо все, щоб дати людям електрику і тепло цієї зими. Але ми маємо розуміти, що Росія зробить усе, щоб руйнувати нормальність життя. Вони не рахуються з видатками на енерготерор. Якщо поглянути на ціну лише вчорашнього російського удару, то застосовані ракети і дрони коштували Росії еквівалент понад 2 мільйонів 300 тисяч середніх російських пенсій по старості. І це один удар. Місячні доходи 2 мільйонів 300 тисяч російських пенсіонерів. Замість того, щоб долати бідність в своїй країні, російське керівництво витрачає все, аби тільки не визнавати, яку історичну помилку вони зробили цією своєю війною проти України. На полі бою вони безнадійні. Українські воїни це вже довели, але потрібен час, потрібні зусилля, потрібне терпіння, щоб довести, що і надія на зиму для російських терористів не справдиться. Впевнений, ми і це пройдемо. Я дякую всім, хто допомагає Україні. Слава кожному і кожній, хто працює, наближаючи нашу перемогу. Слава усім нашим воїнам, які утримують позиції, як би це не було складно, і поступово звільняють нашу землю. Слава Україні!
And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, and that rounds out our day 252 news segment. If you did enjoy tonight's stream, I thank you so much for watching. It's not over yet, although it sounds like it is over. We are about to be going into the question segment, and so if you did send in a super chat, we will be answering those and also addressing each and every one. Thank you all for helping this channel to keep on running, and we will be addressing live chat questions as well. One thing I always want everyone to know, just in case if you are new, is that you do not have to pay to have a question answered on this channel. Yes, if you do super chat, we will make sure to answer the question. Because, of course, without the support of the super chatters, the stream can't keep running because it's the only thing that keeps us alive. So, with that in mind, we are about to be moving into the question segment and addressing a whole bunch of interesting polls with a lot of people who voiced their opinions on them. And also, we're going to be addressing all of the super chats and as many live chats as we can. And of course, once again, if you did enjoy, please make sure to subscribe because these streams run every single day of the week except for Mondays. We take that day off to take a break so we don't become overloaded with this, but every other day of the week we run these streams at 10 p.m. Eastern time like clockwork, covering the past 24 hours of the war in Ukraine. There will be a bit of a change though for some international viewers. Daylight savings time is coming around this Saturday here in the United States, so while it will still be 10 p.m. Eastern time here in America, I believe it will probably be a little bit earlier for most of y'all by about an hour. So it will be an hour earlier than normal. Just letting y'all know because that's something that will be happening here soon. And so with that, I thank all of y'all so much once again for watching, and we're now moving into the question segment. But first, let's address those polls. And so what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so we have two to address for the final segment, and the first one said, are you shocked at how large the crab actually is? It looks like 69% said yes, it is huge next to the man. 20% said no, I knew it was that tall, and 10% said I'm not sure. Now for me, I am very shocked. That is much larger than I thought that was. When you see it in pictures, it doesn't look that big, but when you see the guy standing behind it, you're like, dang, that's like the size of a mini apartment or something. But unfortunately, what do you think?
It's pretty big, and I'm trying to find another picture real quick to put some other tanks in the scale because a lot of people don't get the perspective of anyone standing by tanks, so all of them will look kind of average size. You would think that they're about the size of maybe a little bit bigger than a car, but just about that size. And if I show y'all this picture, which will probably be very interesting to most, you'll see that when people are standing near a Challenger 2, which is a British main battle tank, it's pretty big as well. You can see this guy standing right by it. And of course, Challenger 2 is not as big as a crab, but still, these things are huge. Like this right here, this guy standing at his height, this would be the height of an average car, is right where the hull ends. That doesn't even include the turret. So really, by and large, tanks are massive, but I didn't expect the crab to be that big. It looked a little bit smaller. Also, you can see this really cool picture here of a Challenger 2, apparently in 1997. And you can see a soldier standing by it as well. Still, not that big. Not as big as, you know, a crab, but crabs are massive. And I gotta say, I wouldn't want any crabs near me if they're that big. They're quite scary, and I think that's usually why there's a big stigma about having crabs. And so with that, we are on to the next poll, and I hope we adjust that one fairly well.
All right, and the next poll says, have you heard that the Pentagon has confirmed that U.S. troops are in Ukraine inspecting military equipment? It looks like 49% said no, this is news to me. 43% said yes, I heard, and 8% said I'm not sure and maybe. Now for me, I had not heard this until about 10 minutes ago. I can't remember who put in the live chat, but I had not heard that all day. And I just looked it up and confirmed it from multiple different sources, and that is accurate.
And I just went and checked that real quick as well, and that just came out literally, as far as I can see, about... Well, no. Actually, I'm looking at this a little bit more. The Department of Defense put out an official statement on that 7 hours ago. So it's incredibly new. For some reason, that did not make it into my news tonight, but that's kind of large. They're not there to fight. It appears that on the official statement, they're there to ensure that American weapons are not leaving Ukraine, but that kind of seems to be a little bit of a...
It's probably more likely a recon operation if we're being honest.
Real quick, to be entirely honest, the United States went into South Vietnam saying that, well, we're just going to be in an advisory position. We're going to be making sure that South Vietnam conducts its military accordingly into our Western doctrines. And then we didn't. And then we kind of got involved in it anyway. So going off of that, it seems like that's the official statement. It's not really that good of a one because we already went earlier on and looked at the possibility of Ukrainian weapons having the potential of leaving Ukraine, and it's highly unlikely because they're surrounded by either hostile countries like Russia. There's no access to the sea right now because the Black Sea Fleet is blocking everything but grain ships going to Ukraine, and every other nation surrounding them except for Moldova is a member of NATO. So it's nearly impossible to get weapons out of Ukraine and into other countries that were on the black market, but it is.
And what are they going to do if they find them getting on the black market? What are we going to do? Fight Russia? So like that doesn't really like make any sense, really.
Well, I mean, I guess if we found them on the black market, we would stop providing arms to Ukraine. But at the same time, that wouldn't really make a lot of sense. You know, anyways, the statement there doesn't really make much sense to me. I think they're sending in American soldiers into Ukraine so that way there's the possibility of one of them getting injured. And then we go, oh, well, it's time to go, guys. It's go time now. Because remember, NATO forces being attacked in the Northern Hemisphere, if they're stationed anywhere, that is an invocation, I believe, of Article 5. Once again, I'll have to go back and look, but I'm trying to think. It may pertain only to certain territories within NATO countries. It may not pertain to them being outside of NATO territory in a place like Ukraine. But at the same time, it may, depending on how it's being interpreted now. And so with that, I hope that addresses that poll.
And also, Enforcer, did we ever get confirmation of where the 101st is?
The 101st is still in Romania, as far as we know. We haven't gotten any new updates or information on them, but I can pull it up real quick and see if we do. So let's see here, the 101st Airborne. Let me see if I can get to their website, if they have one.
And also, I see some folks saying, what is the source? I saw it on NBC News, the New York Times, and also there was one other source, but I can't remember the name.
The source I found is the U.S. Department of Defense.
Oh, well, that's like from the source.
Yeah, I think that's about as accurate as we can get here. So, you know, of course, it's the entire transcript, but in this transcript, he did say that U.S. forces were in Ukraine keeping track of weapons that we have sent to them and making sure that they stay in Ukrainian hands. So that is really interesting to see. Also, I like the U.S. Department of Defense's logo. It's very nice, I gotta say.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's pretty
nice. I see some folks in the live chat saying that they're simply guarding the embassy. Well, no, that's not the case because they've left the embassy and they're roaming around Ukraine. So that's not typically their duties, just to leave the embassy. Typically, they don't.
Also, American forces, as far as I recall, are always at U.S. embassies. Usually it's U.S. Marines that guard embassies, and that's something that's been a standard forever. Even in, I believe, the United Kingdom, we have Marines that guard the embassy. I think, though, that's something of a situational... well, no, it's not. Well, I would have to go back and look at a little bit more information on that, but I think it may be a permanent posting for Marines to be sent to embassies, and sometimes it's delegated to other branches. So there would have already been U.S. forces in Kyiv around the U.S. Embassy if there was an embassy staff there, but I believe we evacuated the embassy staff at the very beginning of the war. I don't know if they've come back or not. I haven't gotten any actual news speaking on that end, but if they are there would still be Marines there or some kind of forces. And so with that, I hope that addresses the questions around that fairly well. And it looks like the Department of Defense confirmed it, and that's about as official as we can get. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so that was our last poll. So now we're moving on to our super chat questions and then our live chat questions. So up first, we have a $20 donation from Santiago Flores, the channel legend, who says, it's Taco Tuesday. Let's celebrate, guys. Check out San Diego, California in the downtown harbor area and keep up the good work.
Hey, let's give it up for Taco Tuesday. I've never actually had tacos on a Taco Tuesday, but I like tacos. Tacos are pretty good. So real quick, they said San Diego, correct?
Yes, San Diego in the downtown harbor area.
The downtown harbor. So let's see. Here's the naval base of San Diego. Oh, look, it's an Independence class littoral combat ship. In case of y'all don't know, those are made by Austell Shipyard. That is in none other than Mobile, Alabama. And real quick, I know that this is a very quick side note, you can actually see a whole bunch of them at their moorings here in Mobile as they're still being built there. So really interesting. They're already about to retire those though, because apparently there's some major cracking issues with the hull. But let's drop down in the downtown San Diego area near the docks, near the USS Midway, I'm assuming. So let's drop down there. Oh, wow, this is really nice. Wow, this is incredibly nice. Look at that train station, too.
That is nice.
Oh, crap, look, they got... Wow, that's cool. I forgot that California actually has commuter trains. It's a very rare sight in the United States to see actual commuter trains. I don't know what company is operating these. It looks like Amtrak's operating this train. It may also be operating this locomotive here as well. But California has a state-operated railway called Caltrain that provides commuter services in some parts of the country. Well, not the country, the state. And I believe they're expanding services here in the future, which is really interesting. But a really nice downtown. Really shocking, because one thing I always hear about in California is that they have absolutely deplorable downtowns in some places. I believe like Los Angeles is one that a lot of people complain about. Apparently they're trying to fix the problems. And is that a Disney cruise ship? That is a Disney cruise ship.
It sure is.
Nuts.
We're showing the logo.
The rat's coming.
The rat.
The rat's coming for us.
The dreaded rat. What the hell is Siri going on about?
But still,
that was weird.
A really cool downtown, and I thank you so much for the support, Santiago Flores. You've helped out this channel a whole load, and you help us to keep this thing running and help this thing to keep on rolling, so thank you so much once again, and I hope you enjoyed us taking a quick look at the downtown of San Diego, and also it's really cool to see a massive naval base in San Diego as well. A whole bunch of stuff here, an Oliver Hazard Perry, it looks like an Arleigh Burke, a Wasp class most likely. That may be the... I don't want to pass judgment on that one. That may be the Comfort or the Mercy. I don't really... No, I don't think it is, because it's not... Hang on, that may be one of those support ships. I forgot what it is, like a twin... I don't know. I think it's a New York class. I'm not exactly certain on that one. Let me know if y'all know the class of that ship. Another... Tycoon Daroga? That looks like a... Yeah, it's a Tycoon Daroga. Daroga. Just really messed that up. But still, what a massive naval base here in San Diego. Goodness, they have... Oh, crap, it's a Zumwalt! Wow, that is cool. You know how rare those are, Matthew?
Very rare.
Very rare. I think there's only like 3 of them, or one that's been completed, and I think 2 more that have been ordered. Boy, gosh, wow, San Diego is a treasure trove of U.S. Navy ships. And so with that, we are on to the next one, but thank you so much once again, Santiago, for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I hope you enjoyed us taking a look at San Diego. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $20 super chat from Terrace McGitz, who says, "You guys are awesome," with the emoji of the guy wearing sunglasses and smiling.
And I thank you so much for the kind words, Terrace McGitz. It helps us out a lot to keep this channel running, to get support from viewers, of course, to not explain it away a million times, because I know that we explain this over the top, but thanks to y'all's support, we are able to keep this thing running. We don't run any ads. Actually, yesterday's video that we put up, one of the few videos we've ever put out, recently, that is in the past few months, actually got limited ads, so we didn't make a dime on that thing. So we did that one pretty much for fun. We pretty much knew it about halfway through making it. I was like, you know, it's probably going to get stricken because it's about the FSB, so they're not going to allow ads to be run on it. But whatever, we'll still run it. So hope y'all enjoyed that video, and I thank you so much for supporting us, so that way we can keep working on videos in the background like that, and also help to keep these streams running, so that way we can keep running fundraisers and keep covering this war in Ukraine until the very end. I made a promise to everyone at the beginning of this war, I believe it was like in the first 2 weeks, that I would continue to cover this war until it ends, and so far we are on track to keep doing that. And so thank you so much once again, Terrace, for helping us to keep this thing running, and with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again.
All right, and up next, we have a $20 super chat from Fernando Silva, who says, "Since March here, I give the question to someone else at LSA." He put SLA, but I think he meant LSA, and he said Slava Ukraine.
And thank you so much for the support, and also thank you for being around since March. That is a long time to watch this channel, and I've heard a lot of people, and we have a lot of old heads around here who have been around forever, and it's interesting to see a lot of people, once they join the Lee Spring Army or watch these streams, they never really leave. It's like it becomes like a nightly thing, and I think that's really cool. I'm glad to know that a lot of people have stuck around for so long, and I thank you so much for being an Old Guard member and also helping us out to keep this thing going so that way we can keep the Lee Spring Army alive. And so thank you so much once again for the support, and let's get a live chat question sponsored by you. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and that live chat question goes to Chewbacca's secret love child, who says, do you think Putin would be swayed by USA saying they would take action if Russia uses nukes?
We have said that, actually. That's a great question. Also, I think, Matthew, from now on, we're going to have to call the pound to get Chewbacca's love child, because I don't think we want that thing roaming the streets. It must be some kind of a freak creature. But anyways, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding around. To answer that question, the Russians have already had that threat issued to them. We've told the Russians plainly that if there is any use of nuclear, biological, or chemical weapons within Ukraine, the United States would get involved immediately, and of course probably wipe the floor against the Russians, because we have the best military on earth in terms of funding and in terms of what we actually possess. So in those regards, the Russians are fairly scared of that, and I think that's the reason why we have seen them so reserved in their threat making but actual action taking. We've never seen them use anything close to a biological, chemical, or a nuclear weapon. We have seen them, of course, using white phosphorus and incendiaries, but we've never really said anything about those before and never really since. So it is something that I think the Russians have taken seriously, because they haven't done anything yet, and from what we can tell, they have also not made, and usually an official response from the Russian government, considering the current situation, would come within hours. We have not seen them make an official statement to respond to the U.S. saying that there are now U.S. soldiers in Ukraine and inspecting and making sure that our equipment stays within their borders. So that's kind of interesting, and that may show that they are incredibly scared of actually facing the U.S. head-to-head, and they might just try and sweep that under the rug and act like it's not happening, so that way they don't get in over their heads. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well. Chewbacca's love child. Very interesting name. Very weird one, but still funny one nonetheless. And I hope you enjoyed the joke we made on it. And so with that, I hope we did address the comment fairly well. And thank you so much once again for supporting a live chat. Of course, that was an incredibly kind tradition. I believe it was started by Tangan Brygiri. And it's really cool to see that people have helped to keep that tradition alive and helped to support this channel, but also are so kind and generous as to give their pretty much question segment to someone else. It's just incredibly kind, and I thank y'all so much for doing that. It's really cool. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again.
All right, and real quick, I did put up one more poll, and to address that question, it was, do you accept the official reason given by the Pentagon for U.S. military inspectors in Ukraine? It looks like 49% said yes, it is what it appears to be. 26% said I'm on the fence, and 25% said no, it's likely not the reason. Now, it looks like about half of the audience is very trusting in the government. That's quite interesting. But I'll have to say I'm going to fall within the 25% that said no, it's likely not the reason. Just because I like to take the approach when it comes to statements from the government like that about military matters, sort of be skeptical about it and wait for it to be proven before believing it. That's my personal take. But Enforcer, what do you think?
I would honestly have to say that their intentions are probably different. And I have seen some people saying one thing or another about the government, and of course I asked that no one talks about politics, because I can see that everyone's starting to throw names of specific parties and start to say certain things about them, and of course we don't like that here on this channel, because that starts to make the war more about U.S. politics than the war in Ukraine, where people are actually getting killed, versus here in America where people just run their mouths and, you know, people's feelings get hurt all over the place. So moving on from that, I would have to say my opinion on that poll, and this starts to weigh in a little bit on American politics, is that a lot of people, I don't think, see that the government is a very one-track system, although it appears that there are two separate options. If one group's in charge and they're doing one thing, which is really the one direction the country can go in, whoever is not in charge is going to be acting like that's the worst thing on earth to do and that it shouldn't be done. That's just how politics works in this country. Not getting into the particulars of what party and all that stuff, that's just how it is. And you can see that in action within the past 2 years. This Ukraine war and supporting Ukraine is something that has to be done. right now it seems that there is a bit of a division in the government in between people who support Ukraine and don't. But I promise you that if the control of the government right now, the majority of the government was switched, we would still be supporting Ukraine. Because if you look at the prior administration, which was that government that was in charge under a different leadership, you would see that there were weapons being sent over to Ukraine then. That's why there were Humvees in Ukraine prior to this war, is because we were still supporting them then. We will almost always support Ukraine. It's just it pretty much just makes it appear that there is some kind of an option, but there really isn't. It's a one-track situation. This is a part of our sphere of influence and balance of power in Eastern Europe, and so we will support Ukraine for that matter, no matter what. These soldiers are most likely being sent over there as a bit of a soft way of eking in some American troops and seeing how the Russians respond, and if they don't really respond at all, we may start to see that there may be an injuring of an American soldier, or there may be the threat of them being injured, and so we'll start to send over quote-unquote security forces to protect the inspectors. So I hope that addresses that question in that poll. Of course, not getting political, not trying to err on politics, but situations like these, while it will look like there are two sides to the coin here in America, you will see that in the end, regardless of who gets in charge, it will be a one-shot, one-route kind of answer to this. Both sides will pretty much do the same thing once they get in charge. So with that, I hope that addresses the question, well, the poll fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and next up, we have a $20 super chat from SuperBunker9000, the channel legend and member of NAFO, who says, "You guys are doing a fantastic job. Thank you, and please take chat question."
And thank you so much for the support and the kind words. I thank you so much for enjoying the work we do. I think it is what it is, but I'm glad that a lot of people do love and enjoy it. It means a lot to me, and I'm more than honored to think that right now, in a question segment, which is usually when people leave, we have 5,400 people watching in the question segment. I'm very honored to think that a lot of y'all find this channel to be worth y'all's time and worth watching, because this whole entire ordeal, the war, this channel, the news we cover, it means a lot to me, and I love to know that a lot of people do enjoy what we do. And so I thank you so much once again for the kind words, and let's get a live chat question sponsored by none other than you, my good man. And so with that, what do we got?
All right, and the live chat question goes to Not Another Shrubbery, who says, "What does Belarus have to do to get Ukraine to declare war on them?"
Belarus... what does Belarus have to do for Ukraine to declare war on them?
Yes.
I don't think there's really anything that Belarus could do for Ukraine to declare war on them. If Belarus did anything at that point that was that justifiable, Belarus would probably already be in what they would most likely call a military operation against Ukraine, and so they wouldn't have to declare war because it would be already a defensive on the Ukrainians' end until they could secure the initiative and then begin an offensive, most likely very quickly. So with that in mind, if we were going off of the premise that Ukraine would have to declare war on them for something, it would have to be most likely a land invasion of Ukraine or the use of the Belarusian Air Force, which is incredibly small in number, against Ukrainian targets inside of their borders. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well. There are probably a couple of other things that I'm not thinking about that could be thrown out in that kind of situation as reasons that Ukraine may declare war against Belarus. But one thing you have to remember is that this war is a defensive war, and Ukraine isn't trying to expand its fronts and include new opponents against them currently. They're trying to just contain the situation and, I guess you could say, be in the most advantageous circumstance, which would involve not having Belarus in, because while they're an incredibly minor power and their military is very small, that inclusion of an additional amount of troops is tipping the balance of power more so in Russia's favor by a small margin, and you never want to do that. And so with that, I hope that does address the question fairly well, and thank you so much for once again sponsoring a live chat. It's really cool that people do that, and also that was a really interesting question. And so with that, we are going to be moving on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support and the kind words as well, which really do mean a lot. And so with that, on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $13.37 donation from Jack Ray, who says, "Here's a random A10 super chat to stir the chat up some more," with a emoji with an angel with a halo above his head.
And thank you so much for the support, Jack Ray. Jack Ray has now started a bar fight, and I know it's about to happen in 30 seconds when the stream finally catches up with the live chat. Everyone's going to be murdering each other down there. Of course, I will say it's a double-edged sword, the A10 is. It could be used well, and it could also be used poorly. It depends on what is sent over to support the A10, because the more people have told me about how the A10 operates in the U.S. Air Force, it doesn't operate solo in the U.S. Air Force either. It operates with a massive amount of supporting aircraft that help it to stay alive, because otherwise it would probably get shot down fairly easily. So with that, I hope that kind of addresses that a little bit. Hopefully there's not a lot of bloodshed in the live chat over there. Thank you so much once again for the support, Jack Ray. You've been around for quite a while, helping this channel to keep on running. And of course, thank you so much for the support, and also stirring up the pot a little bit with a live chat. And so with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you so much once again.
Right, and up next, this is a highly anticipated super chat from Psyops, who's been asking me forever in the live chat when I'm going to get to it. So we're finally at it. He puts in a $10 donation and says, Oklahoma is the greatest state with the best barbecue, and Texas stinks.
Oh no. Yeah, that's war right there. You can't say anything about Texan barbecue. Okay, now that is war. The Texans are going to be slaughtering you in the live chat, Psyops. They're going to be eviscerating you, pulling you apart limb by limb, putting you on the old stretcher, the old Spanish bull. They're going to be putting you in the Argentine water calprod electrical trap. They're going to, oh goodness, they're going to be putting you through the ringer. I hate that you did that, Psyops. May the Lord have the mercy on your soul that you will need, because the Texans are coming for you and they're going to murder you. And so with that, I thank you for the support, Psyops, but oh man, oh, it's going to be bad. And so we're on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support. And I can just imagine, because everyone, I believe Matthew and me also know, that in the South, the Texans are revered for the deliciousness of their barbecue throughout their state, and that is just going to cause a fight. So with that, we're on to the next one. Thank you once again for the support.
Right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat from Toady Beck, who says, where can I find the links to the songs at the start of the stream?
We do not have any links to the songs, but I can tell you the names. The first one is Of the Regiment, or Banner of the Regiment. The second one is The Cossacks Were Riding. And the third one is Bayraktar, as conducted by a Ukrainian military army band. And then the anthem, the Ukrainian anthem, is actually a bit of our own make. We've changed the tone and pitch of it and speed of it a little bit to make it conducive to the subtitles we already had. So with that, I hope that does address that question fairly well. And I thank you so much once again for the support. And I think I'll try and find a way from now on, make a list in the description where you can see the names of the songs, so that way you can find them yourselves, because they are good songs, and I'm sure a lot of people would like to listen to them off stream. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment fairly well. Thank you so much once again for the support and helping us to keep running. And with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat from David Prange, who says, another oligarch may have joined the window team today in the UK. And is that the case? Let me go check that while the enforcer is answering that question.
And I thank you for the support. And I gotta say, one thing about the Russian oligarchs is they love Britain. You know, for them, everyone in Russia to be, oh my glorious Россия, slava Россия, good day at the blushit, you know, I forgot what the rest of it. I don't really know a lot of Russian, but anyways, it's really funny to always hear that these Russian oligarch guys, they love Russia so much. Russia's just so great. And then they live in places like Germany and France and Britain, and it's always weird to see that, because it shows that they don't even like Russia that much. They just make their money there and then live elsewhere, the fifth column as they call it in Russia. And so with that, I hope that addresses the comment fairly well, because hopefully we can find some information on that here real soon. Have you found anything on it, Matthew?
I haven't yet. I'm looking through here. I don't see anything as of recent. But man, if that's the case, I got to go back and update my video.
And also Richard Philpott said it's an art, which just made me remember of that movie, that Disney movie, Matthew, Home on the Range. You know, when those little henchmen were like, yodeling, you know, is a song, and then the guy's like, yodeling isn't a song, it's an art, and then he kills the guy. pretty much. Yeah, you remember that?
I remember that to save my life.
Oh,
Where's
man.
that from?
It's from that movie, you know, Home on the Range with the cattle, you know, that were at that little farm and they went on that weird journey or whatever in the Wild West.
Oh.
Oh, anyways, I guess that fell flat. Maybe some of y'all remember that movie and know what I'm talking about. But window throwing isn't singing. It isn't dancing. It's an art. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again. And we will be trying to find some news on that if we can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat from White Lightning 777, who says, do you think Ukraine should hit targets of military value in Moscow if civilians aren't at risk? If they can make those HRIMs, or long-range drone, it'll happen.
And can you reread that first part again? Because I heard the thing about the drones and the HRIMs, but I think I kind of got the first part muddled up a little.
And the first part said, do you think Ukraine should hit targets of military value in Moscow if civilians aren't at risk?
Well, I would have to say that would be a pretty good idea if it wasn't for the fact that the Russians are hypocrites and they will try and do something about that. There are a decent amount of military targets in Moscow. By no means, don't get me wrong, hitting military targets there would definitely get a point across. However, one does have to remember that the flight path of a HRIM would have to be quite long from the Ukrainian border all the way to Moscow. And now I sound like I'm talking like real life lore, but anyways, from the border of Ukraine and Moscow, that's a distance of 290 miles to the city center. 290 miles that a cruise missile would have to cross without being shot down, and the longer a missile has to fly over enemy territory, the higher the chances is that it will be shot down. And so the chances of success for a HRIM getting to Moscow would probably be low. A drone, however, could probably make it to Moscow, considering that it's operated by an actual pilot for the most part, and they could fly it incredibly low to the ground, which would make it very hard to detect on radar, and also very difficult to shoot down. They could make it to Moscow, and they could hit military targets. It's really hard, though, to reach that kind of range and hit such a prominent city with drone attacks and probably hit military installations without the Russians lying that civilians are being killed. It's not the fact so much with the Russians whether it is killing civilians or not. It's the fact that can they lie about it? And we know one thing's for certain: the Russians will lie about anything at any time it's convenient. And so they would definitely lie about civilians being killed in Moscow. Once a military base gets hit, they would go, it's a terrorist act. People are getting killed all over. They wouldn't call them civilians because they'd be military personnel, but they'd still say people are getting killed all over. It's time for us to start whipping out the big guns. We may see at that point a total mobilization. They would probably have a pretty good excuse in the Russian public's eye to do it. And then the war could drag on even longer. And then the government might even be able to bolster itself a little bit in the meantime. So with that, I hope that addresses the question really well. It's a great question. I would love to see the idea of drones or missiles landing in Moscow and hitting military targets, but at the same time, it would be a really tough move to make, and there's many ways that it could go poorly, depending on how the Russians react. Also, what in the world is this? This massive building. Okay, they got a copy-paste picture. Haven't we seen this woman somewhere? She's like a movie star in the United States, isn't she?
I don't think so.
Huh. I'm telling you, I don't think this building looks like that on the inside. I'm highly doubtful of that.
No way.
No way.
No way.
And they got some weird pictures of some medical equipment. We can see what it really looks like. This is where you go if you're in triage, just right out here in the construction yard. Yikes. I bet you this is for like Russian oligarchs only. Like average people really can't get in here. Because it's a little too nice for a country with a $1.2 trillion GDP. But with that, we're going to be moving on to the next question. I hope we addressed that one fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on rolling. Because without viewers like y'all, this isn't possible. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
All right. And also, I was told by the live chat who our next candidate for windowing might be. It looks like Oleg Tinkov. He's a former banking tycoon in Russia, and 12 hours ago he renounced his citizenship and also said that Putin was a fascist. So that's very bad statements to make for that fellow.
You know, this guy kind of looks like he has some semblance with Ivan Draco from Rocky.
He apparently hasn't watched my video.
If he dies, he dies. But this guy is playing a dangerous game here, saying some stuff like that. he's being put on a list for certain, and it's really going to be questionable how long he'll make it, because I have not seen an oligarch yet that has not fallen out of a window saying stuff like that. So best of luck to the guy. He's got balls to say something like that and do what he's done. So hopefully he can make it out there for a little bit. But like everyone's saying right now in the live chat, he's probably a goner. Like East Malibu said, he's probably not going to last long. But still, you got to commend the guy for having the balls to do something like that, knowing the consequences that most likely will be coming down the road. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on into the next question. But thank you, everyone, for sharing that with us, so that way we could also know that that's probably going to be happening soon. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
So I see a ton of people saying he has cancer, the Oleg fellow there. So that might be part of the reason why he doesn't care about making the statement, just being totally honest. But anyways, moving on to our next one, we have a $10 super chat from Richard Philpott, who says, NAFO Ukrainian witch Halloween YouTube vid is not to be missed. Off the hook. Get subtitles.
And thank you for the support. I will try and take a look at that video sometime around. It sounds interesting. It sounds pretty wild. And so I will make sure to go and try and check that out as soon as I can. And of course, thank you so much, Richard Philpott, for being around for an incredibly long time and helping this channel to keep on running. Without viewers like you, it's not possible for us to keep doing this. And so I thank each and every one of y'all so much for helping me to keep doing this. And so with that, we are going to be moving on to the next one. But real quick, someone said, check out the gum in Moscow. Have you ever heard of gum on the floor, Matthew?
Yeah.
Well, the Russians decided to make it into a mall. So here's the gum. This is kind of like, I guess you could say, Russia's version of Harrods. Oh, look, watermelons.
Oh, it's a mall? What? Yeah. Is that watermelons?
Yeah, these are watermelons.
I bet they stole those from Herzon.
This was taken in 2021, so not yet, but it's getting close.
Well, then.
Let's see. Huh. Yeah, it's. I believe this building was made in imperial times, like the 19th century. So that's why it's nice. You know, because
I've got to admit, it's pretty nice.
It is pretty nice, but one has to keep in mind that this is not that fantastic. Now that we're on malls, we got to go down a rabbit hole real quick to show that that's not special, because in London, there's Harrods, and Harrods is, it could be a little bit better in some ways than, real quick, let me go to it. There we go. Here's Harrods, and here's what Harrods looks like. So we're going to scroll through. We've actually driven by this building before, and we can see here, nice Harrods, handcrafted by Neuhaus. Really neat. See people roaming around. It's a nice store. We didn't get to go in it. We didn't go in it because we were like, you know, it's like, what's the point? You can't get anything in there. It's probably going to cost like $50. But still, it's a really cool place. It looks neat. It looks pretty nice. And what's really interesting is it looks like they got a lot of food. And you didn't really see that in the gum store, at least from the pictures we saw. But it's still a cool place nonetheless. And so with that, we're going to be moving on to the next one. And I got to say, the gum looks nice, but I would still go for Harrods instead, because, you know, you don't have to deal with the Russian mob probably owning Harrods, like the gum's probably owned by the Russian mob. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, let's see. Also, I just saw a message from Magic Sky Girl that said the Kyiv Independent has tweeted that the U.S. launches demining training in Ukraine. So I was just looking at that. Let's see. And it looks like that is accurate. They said that the U.S. State Department announces they've launched the training project with a private company to train them in Ukraine. So that's interesting.
Interesting. That is really interesting. That sounds like they're already starting to expand what American soldiers and their purpose is going to be.
That was quick.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying right there? It's starting to move a little bit quickly. I'm sure that they're about to say, oh, we're scared for American forces and their lives. Quick, let's send in some Patriots, some NASAMs, maybe a couple of, let's see, what are they called on land? The CIWSs.
C-RAM?
Yeah, C-RAMs. They're going to probably be sending in stuff like that to protect, quote-unquote, American troops, but really they'll be protecting Ukrainian citizens as well. So with that, we are going to be moving on to the next one, and thank you for letting us know about that real quick, Magic Sky Girl.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat from Brad Zollinger, who says, Brad and Patty Zollinger, enjoy your show every single night and keep up the good work.
And thank you so much for the support. Brad and Patrick Zollinger?
Brad and Patty.
Brad and Patty. Is like Patty the short for Patrick? I never understood that. Like, is that
No, I think it's actually Patty, like P-A-T-T-I.
Oh, Patty. Okay. All right. I thank you both so much for the support, and I'm glad that y'all do enjoy this channel. I want to know that now. Is Patty short for Patrick? Is Patty short for Patrick? The name Patrick would be abbreviated as Patty in English. Okay, so it is Patrick. It could be called Patty. Like, some people don't name their kids Alexander, they name them Alex. So it could just be Patty, or it could be Patrick. I'm not sure. I want to know that now. But anyways, moving on from that, I thank you so much for the support and all the kind words as well. It does mean a lot to us. And of course, like, and I say of course way too much. I need to stop that. It does help us to keep the stream running, because while support means a lot and helps us stay alive, helps us keep eating, helps us to keep going to college and all of those things, kind words do mean a lot as well, because it keeps us running. So, and it keeps us running in a way where in our minds, we're like, oh, okay, people do enjoy what we do. They want us to keep doing it, so we need to keep doing it. Because, you know, it wouldn't be fun to get on here every day and have everyone say that it sucks. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support, both of y'all for the support, and helping this channel to keep on running. Because without kind viewers like y'all, who are incredibly generous in helping to keep this channel running, it wouldn't be possible. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again.
All right. And also, I think that was his wife, by the way.
Oh, Patricia. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I did see on the Google search, is Patty, now I gotta pull that, is Patty short for Patricia? So so Patty is a shortened version of both Patrick and Patricia. So I thank you so much for the support once again. Sorry about that. It apparently is Patricia from what a lot of people are saying, so it could either be Patrick or Patricia. And so thank you so much once again. Sorry for that if I did get that wrong. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support. It's sorry for the slip up there.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Ann Yulia, who does not put in a comment. But Ann, thank you very much for the support, and we do appreciate you very much. And thank you for being here almost every single night. And Enforcer, would you like to add a few words?
Yes, I would. I would like to thank you as well for the support. It helps us to keep running, and without y'all, it's not possible. And so, of course, it means a lot to us, and that's why we always recognize everyone who sends in the super chat, because y'all could support anything you want. You could go and get a Netflix subscription. Instead, y'all are helping this channel to keep on running. And I thank you so much for that, because without y'all, this isn't possible. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Blue Flam 777, who says, let's send a buck just for the bots. Ha! Slava Ukraine.
And thank you for the support. And I thank you so much for helping this channel to keep on running. Of course, through y'all's support, we are able to pretty much spite the bots every single day with our existence. So if y'all look at it that way, y'all are helping us to do that as well and keep them seething, which is always fun to see whenever they come through and go, oh, he sucks, you know, because it's funny to see that. It went from being a little bit annoying. It used to be a little bit laughable at the beginning, because it's like, oh, you know, we finally reached the bot's radar. Then it got a little annoying. Now it's back to being funny, because it's hilarious to see someone come in, because someone at the beginning of the stream actually asked, what do y'all think about the Enforcer? And I just responded to him. I said, me personally, I think he sucks, period. And it looks like he stopped talking after that. Matthew, did he?
Yeah, it might have been a bot.
It may have been. I don't know. It was hilarious to me. So with that, I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And thank you so much for supporting this channel, so that way we can wake up each and every day and keep doing this to also spite the bots. That's kind of like that's way down on the rung of priorities, but it's still something to get a good chuckle out of every once in a while, is that the bots wake up, they see the streams running, and they're like, no! And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And also, we did get confirmation from Brad. He said, I am his wife, Patty.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I'm very sorry. Because I thought it was Patrick. And so with that, very sorry about that. But thank you once again to both of y'all for your support. And I will try and remember that going forward. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Sausage Gravy Biscuit, who says, love the show, guys. Truly amazed at your knowledge and analysis across so many different domains. Best from your favorite breakfast food, Slava Ukraine.
Hey, and I thank you so much for the support, Sausage Gravy Biscuit. I love that name. I also love the picture. It's making me kind of hungry, and I was already hungry before the stream. Now I'm really hungry. But still, I mean, like, it is what it is. And so I thank you so much first for the kind comments. And while we do get a lot of praise for the knowledge that we have, one thing I want to say, and you know, it's very hard to say this because there's kind of a mix here, and I'll explain why. Based off of what I've heard from other people, I do know a decent bit on certain things, but at the same time, I don't know everything. And that's one thing I will say all day, every day. And the bots, of course, will always say I know everything, but I don't, because I don't know how fast every single missile flies. I don't know exactly the breakdown of every single commander in the Russian army. I don't know things like that. And I don't think it's reasonable to think that people ought to just know that stuff. That's usually comes with research and the specific, like, battening down. You know, people out there like Tom Scott, they don't go and make these YouTube videos because they know everything off the bat. They do some research, and then they go out there and they film. But I thank you so much for enjoying the channel, and also the kind words as well. It does mean a lot. But I always like to think I don't know everything. No one knows everything. I think people who believe that about themselves are delusional, because there's no way you can know everything out there. You know, Steven Seagal is one of those people, and look at how crazy he looks. And so with that, still thank you so much for the kind words. It does mean a lot to me, and also some really high praise. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Oats Air, who says, take a question from the chat, Slava LSA and Slava Ukraine.
And I thank you so much for the support, Oats Air. You have been around forever as well, and I thank you so much for supporting us again tonight, and we will take a live chat sponsored by you. So with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and moving back up there to that live chat sponsored by Oats Air, it goes to, let's see here, it goes to Heath Runyon, who says, why couldn't Ukraine hire a U.S. mercenary group like Blackwater?
Interesting question. Blackwater is shrouded. It's well, you know,
it's rebranded like 3 or 4 different times.
Yeah, it keeps on getting rebranded because each time they commit some kind of a atrocity, they just go and rebrand themselves. But that's probably the reason why, is that we don't want to end up looking like the Russians in Syria using the Wagner group. It may go poorly for our image, and also they, you know, it's really hard to deliver quality sometimes with mercenaries. You know, mercenaries usually throughout all of history, like Landsknechts and also Swiss guards, they're looked at as being high quality, and back then they were. Their entire lives and careers were focused around the art of war. But in the modern world, where there's professional standing militaries of incredible size like the United States, mercenaries can actually lack in quality these days compared to their regular army counterparts, although, you know, most of them do have prior military experience. And so it's kind of hard to say, you know, that they're probably less competent or less put together than the U.S. military. But I think the reason why we're not wanting to send them in as well is because that would have a very bad diplomatic outlook. Because we send them in, then Russia would be able to say, the Americans are hiring Western guns to kill the Russian people, you know, and then that could go over poorly on a diplomatic lens. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the support. Well, wait a minute, real quick. Thank you so much once again for the support, Oats Air, for helping us to sponsor that live chat, answer it, and of course, I thank you so much for helping this channel to keep on running. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again.
All right, and up next, I want to give a shout out to Bailey Bear and also Danny Van Stralen for each putting in a $10 donation, but without a comment. But thank you very much to both of you, Danny and Bailey, for that support, and we do appreciate it very much. Thank you for helping us to keep the lights on. And Enforcer, would you like to add a few words yourself?
Yes, I would. I would love to thank all of y'all so much for your support. It helps us, like Matthew said, to keep the lights on. It helps us to keep everything running in the background. And without y'all, this wouldn't be possible. And so I got to thank all of y'all so much for helping us to keep the thing going. And so with that, thank you so much once again. And also, Matthew, I saw that response from John Doe.
Yes, I gave him the old clown emoji.
Yeah, that was a hilarious one. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. It looks like John Doe turned into any Joe Schmo.
What a classic name for a bot too, John Doe. Like that's like totally unassuming for a bot.
Yeah, that's literally what people use as the generic name, is either John Smith or John Doe, and he just used it. Lame. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat. Actually, is that pounds? Luis Marina's super chat?
That is a pound.
That's a pound. £10 donation from Luis Marina, who says, the more you know, the more you realize you know nothing. There are people that think they know everything, but just expose themselves every day.
And thank you so much for the support, Luis Marina. Also, real quick, just to make a joke, I know this is going to be a little funny. If someone sent in a 500-pound super chat, Matthew, will we be crushed by the sheer weight of it? Hope y'all see what I did.
Yeah, that's a king dad joke.
Yeah.
King dad joke.
Anyways, moving on to answer that super chat. Yes, that is true, Luis Marina. There's a lot of people out there who act like they know everything. And one thing that's interesting to me is when people are a part of something, but then they act like because they were a small part of something, they know everything. And you can see that a lot in a lot of categories in YouTube, like a guy who's a truck driver for uranium rods, and he brings them to nuclear power plants. And for some reason, because this guy is a truck driver that drives uranium rods from one place to another, instead of talking about his experience and knowledge, which is probably boundless as a truck driver, he instead talks about nuclear reactors and how they work, which doesn't really make any sense because he's not a nuclear scientist or an operator of the nuclear reactors. He's a truck driver. And you see that a lot in YouTube. And it's kind of weird because it's almost like, for some reason, like, these people are like, oh, you know, and I guess it kind of works because a lot of people will just take their words for, like, granted, you know, and I'm using this as just a general example, you know, because this guy dabbled in it a little bit, and, you know, his job may have been fixing a fuel pump, like a fuel pump on an aircraft, he now knows how to fly a commercial airliner, and it just doesn't really translate, you know, it's like, there are, like, in the modern world, there's a massive division of labor, and your job is very specialized for the most part in the modern world. And so I don't know why there are people out there who are like, oh, you know, like, I know more than anyone on Earth because I was loosely related to something, and now I just know everything about it, you know, and they don't, you know, they know about as much as anyone else. And I will be one to admit, I don't have any military experience. The closest I've gotten to military experience is reading history books, which isn't really that close. It just gives you an idea of how war has evolved over the ages and how people have interpreted it when they're there. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I do not know everything. And usually I sit there and declare ignorance on things, and, you know, ignorance is kind of a harsh word, but if you don't know about it, you're just ignorant about it. You know, it's not a bad thing, it's just how it is, at least to me. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well, and hopefully and this is one thing I always try and do, while I answer questions sometimes with clearness, I always don't want to come off as a know-it-all where I'm just like, yep, that's how it is on everything. There's always room to be wrong. And of course, I have gone and eaten my foot, and Matthew always loves to point out, eating your foot, but I've always gone and eaten my foot several times on stream because I get things wrong. You know, everyone does. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat from Jeff Bailey, who says, the Javelin has a 4x night vision mode per wiki. Keep up the good work, guys.
And thank you so much for the support. And also, thank you for providing that information. We did not check wiki and go down a rabbit hole on that here on this on the stream, but considering that it did fire in night, we would have to assume it had infrared or night vision, but it's good to know that it's night vision instead. I was thinking, like, when I was thinking infrared, I was like, dang, that must be expensive. Like, infrared is not a cheap thing. And so I was like, good lord. I was like, that's why the CLUs cost so much. But now it's night vision. It still explains away why it is so expensive for a single, I guess you could say, CLU to operate a Javelin. So I thank you so much for providing that information with us. And just in case if anyone was wondering, the Javelin was able to fire at night because it has night vision, not infrared. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for providing that.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat from Blue Flam 777, who says, my name is Boris, and I wanted to know why Russia is sending troops to Ukraine and why we have annexed the Crimean Peninsula from Ukraine to us. How do you start a joke about Vladimir Putin, question mark?
Wait a minute, is this guy Russian?
No, it's Blue Flam.
Well, he said to us, like a Russian.
I think he was trying to, like, come up with a joke.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Like this entire time, I was like, has Blue Flame been Russian? I was like, what? I was like, this is about to be the biggest plot twist of the century. Anyways, to answer the can you reread it again, because I need to figure out like the joke and also the question.
Right. So Blue Flam said, "My name is Boris, and I wanted to know why Russia is sending troops to Ukraine and why we have just annexed the Crimean Peninsula from Ukraine to us. How do you start a joke about Putin?"
Let's see. First, starting a joke. We'll start with that part. And also, Blue Flam, you still throw me for such a loop. I can hardly understand the question. Like honestly, that came as such a shock to me. I was like, what? Like, it literally threw me off kilter. Anyways, getting back to this, it's good to know that you're not Russian and it's a joke. It's to answer the question. I'm like so blown off by that, man. Like I don't even know where to go right now. So let me try.
I'll be like straight up honest. The joke's going over my head. Like I'm reading it again for the second time, and I'm like, I don't know if it's like me or what, but I'm not getting it.
I don't think I'm getting the joke either, but one thing that just still threw me for a loop was when Blue Flam started talking about us like he was a Russian. I was like, what? I was like, run that by me one more time. So real quick to get to the end, you start a joke about Putin by falling out of a window. That's usually the best way to start a joke about Putin. But of course, there are other ways, usually drinking some kind of a radioactive substance or something similar. Those are usually the ways that jokes start off about Putin. But to answer the joke, I don't really know how to answer it, sadly. But I do thank you for the support, Blue Flame. You have been around forever, and you've helped this channel to keep on running. And sadly, I don't think we can deliver on the joke tonight because I don't know where to go with it. But I do thank you so much once again for helping us out. And if you would like to explain the joke to us, which usually kills the joke, but still, I would love to be able to try and address the joke at least, please let us know, and we will try and circle back to it. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat from Dwayne Porter, who says, "Good evening, Enforcers. It still amazes me that I am listening to college students while I have two sons that graduated college. Keep doing what you're doing, an awesome job. I am in Clearwater Beach, Florida."
Hey, Clearwater Beach. That is a location. Real quick, let's run to Clearwater Beach. Clearwater. You know what's amazing to me, Matthew, is how Miami just continues to grow into the Everglades. You know, it looks really bizarre. You know, like because you just have this urban area, and then boom, it just goes into the Everglades. It's really weird looking.
You know, honestly, I didn't know it did that. Like, that's blowing my mind for a minute.
Yeah,
Let me see that again. Zoom back in.
Okay, so this is really going to blow your mind. Whenever they build a new development, the ground here is too marshy. It's too damp to support any weight. So they have to drain it, and then they build pretty much these little plots. So you could see them kind of like in these squares, and they'll also build canals in them that are mosquito breeding pits and all. And then they have these canals where literally the development stops and the Everglades begin.
There's no way in hell I'd live in that neighborhood. Can you imagine the alligators gators that are crawling around there?
No, forget the alligators. The mosquitoes, man. Look at that. Like, that is mosquito hell. Oh, let's drop down in that.
This must be where they got the footage of the alligator walking across somebody's lawn, was this place. Oh my goodness.
It's so bright. Jeez. Oh, good lord.
It's really not that bad, but, you know.
It's not bad at all, but it's so freaking bright. I've never seen anything this bright before on Google Maps. Anyways, where is the specific place again?
It's, let's see. He said Clearwater Beach, Florida.
Clearwater Beach in Clearwater, Florida. So, it's on the other side near Tampa. Thank God it's not down here, because this is just a bunch of weirdness. Also, look at all the farms up here that's kind of also growing into the Everglades. You know, the Everglades is a weird thing, also with the anacondas and all that stuff, and all the invasive snakes that now live in there, but we'll get back to that probably some other time. It's a really interesting story. Anyways, let's check out the Clearwater. I wonder why it's called Clearwater, Matthew. Maybe because it has clear water.
Wait a minute. Isn't this the place that was, like, smashed up by the hurricane?
It is! You're right!
Dang, man. Dwayne, how are you doing down there, man?
He's hopefully doing okay. Let us know if you are. Because I think it went right over Clearwater, didn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the place that really wrecked.
Or...
Oh, wait a minute. No,
I
it's
think
not.
It went over Sarasota. I think it went over Sarasota instead, and then went over Winter Haven, Kissimmee, pretty much right over Disney World, and then back over, I believe, into the Atlantic, if I was correct.
Wait a minute. Scroll down. Was it Fort Myers?
Michael Myers?
I don't know this. I don't know this part of Florida very well. Like, I think it might be down there below Fort Myers. I don't know. Florida. This part of Florida is confusing as hell to me.
I've never. I gotta agree with you. I've never really gotten down the geography of Western Florida. Eastern Florida is easy because you go Jacksonville, St. Augustine, then you have Cape Canaveral, and then you go further down and you got West Palm Beach to Miami. But the western side, for some reason, it's just like destitute. Like it's just Destin, well, Fort Walton, Destin area, Panama City, then there's nothing pretty much down to Tampa, and then there's St. Petersburg, and then there's nothing else down towards Fort Myers. So it's really also, oh my god, wow, Fort Myers is like the same as Miami. Look at that.
I've never been to this part of Florida except driving on the interstate down to Disney World. But I'll be honest, I wouldn't want to live down there, I don't think. It's not my thing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's not that bad in some places. It's just I can't get over the flatness. I love mountains, and Florida is I believe it actually is the flattest state in the country, even flatter than Kansas. I believe the highest...
also real quick, Dwayne put in another $5 super chat and said it came through Fort Myers, Florida, so
okay.
It was down there toward the bottom.
Okay, so it wasn't even near him at all. So he was fine.
He probably got some wind.
He probably got wind whipped. But let's take another look at Clearwater here. All right, so nice. It's got the big hotels. Nice, nice. Everyone comes to Florida to go swimming. I mean, I think everyone does in the whole country. Unless if you're in the West Coast, you probably go to California then. But like everyone I know, they take a trip to Florida yearly. Also,
man, can you imagine how bad the insurance is for that little island right there to have a house on it?
Oh man,
that is probably outrageous.
It probably is. Also, it is clear water out here, and there's a lot of like seaweed and seagrass on the beach. You don't see this in the Panhandle. I haven't seen this much seaweed in the Panhandle, but you know it is what it is. But still, the water's so nice and clear.
Wait a minute. Look at the shadow of the guy standing there.
Oh,
he's walking around with a camera ball like thing sticking out of his backpack.
That is cool. I've never seen that before. I've always seen them on like a tripod where they set them up and then they do it that way. I've never seen it in a backpack. That is.
And what's he holding?
A beer or a phone? It's one or the other.
I don't know what that is. Some kind of I don't know.
I mean, I don't know, but still, I thank you so much for the support, and also I thank you so much once again for letting us take a look at Clearwater. And so with that, thank you so much, Dwayne, once again for the support and helping this channel keep on running. And thank you for letting us take a look at your hometown of Clearwater in Florida. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat from Fabiano Passon, who says, keep doing great in helping the brave Ukrainians, as well as helping all those who are not there to keep high spirit, even with all the terror and crimes inflicted by the Russians.
And thank you so much for the support and enjoying what we do on this channel. One thing that I have heard as a gripe by many critics of the channel is that we have a positive tone. And I don't really understand how that's a negative critique. Because why would anyone want to hear doom and gloom every day and live in depression? No one could change that this war is going on. It really, with the kind of dominoes that fell at the beginning of this war, it was going to be inevitable at some point. And so there's really no reason to be doom and gloom about something that must be done and must be won. And so I'm all into the idea of just being positive about it. Of course, there's things to be sad about. You know, people do get killed, civilians do get targeted, and we do bring attention to those things whenever we need to, and we carry the correct tone on it. But at the same time, I do enjoy keeping up high spirits, because what's the point of going through this thing crying? You know, as they say in the Monty Python song, always look on the bright side of life, and I'm into that idea even during a war. And so with that, I thank you so much for enjoying the chipper tone of the channel. And I thank you so much for also supporting us and helping us to keep this thing running too. Without y'all support, it's not possible to keep this thing rolling. And so I thank you so much once again, because your support and also your kind words encourage us and keep us rolling. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
All right, and up next we have a $10 super chat from Terrace McGitts once again, who says Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota.
Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota. So Minneapolis, St. Paul. if I remember correctly, there was a interstate bridge that collapsed in St. Paul in the mid-2000s that killed a couple of people, and it was really shocking. But anyways, let's take a look. This is St. Paul. Let's take a look at downtown St. Paul. Not that bad as far as downtowns go. Not that bad. Honestly, kind of reminds me of Birmingham with these over-road walkways everywhere. Those are everywhere around, you know, a certain place in Birmingham. But let's see. It's not that bad, actually. It's not that bad. I like this building. Wow, that's actually very ornate. I bet you this
Also, Aldo Schmedak, I think is how you say your last name, hopefully Aldo. He said, Matt, please tell him that our big Mall of America in Minneapolis also has a huge indoor roller coaster.
Oh.
Interesting.
Where is the Mall of America? Let's see if we can find it from space.
Mall of America.
Mall of America. American Mall. Interestingly enough, malls have been dying off. But still, I find malls interesting in a way. I just don't know how they used to be so mainstream, though, you know, because I don't know how people can just stay inside a massive building and walk around in it all day. But anyways, let's pull it up. Mall of America in Bloomington, Minnesota. So it was down this way. Actually, it's right, wow, it's right on the airport, pretty much. But let's take a look in this thing. Is this the Mall of America?
Dang.
That is a big mall. Dang, look at that. Good Lord, this is insane.
Dang.
Look at these Lego. Wow, this is honestly pretty cool. Pretty crazy, too, but pretty cool nonetheless. Good Lord, I would go to a mall like this. Now, this is a mall I could go to, just because it's just impressive in scale. Bizarre. Like, look at that. This is really cool, actually. And I thank you for sharing this with us. I mean, this is neat. I have heard about a mall in America, I believe in New Jersey, suffering badly, apparently because of some very bad...
Is that Lego?
Lego? Lego Maego?
Or what is that? Is that cups or something?
I think these are cups. I think these are... I think they're all cups down there. It does look like these, however, are made out of some kind of like a wool or something. Really cool. I really like all this. This is really neat. And also, they even got like, this is just insane. This is a crazy mall. And so that, I thank you so much for the support and also letting us take a look at this thing. I believe there's a sister mall like this in New Jersey that was supposed to open recently, but from what I've heard, they've been going through a lot of financial troubles at that one, but I don't think they're going through financial troubles at that one, because it looks well off. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope we were able to address that comment fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat once more from Louis Marina, who says, Putin says to Gerasimov, if we open the borders and let people leave Russia, it will just be the two of us left. And Gerasimov says, you and who else?
Ooh, that's a roast. And I thank you so much for the support and a good joke. We love to hear a good joke every once in a while, and y'all always deliver. Every single time y'all throw in a joke, I gotta say, I have honestly not been unimpressed by a joke. They're always pretty good. They always got a good punchline. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. Thank you for a pretty good joke. And I wonder if the live chat liked that joke as well, because I liked it. I wonder if y'all did too. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
All right, and up next, we have a $7 super chat from Alan Sanderson, who says, congrats on a great video, Enforcer Matt. Now that YouTube Update has moved the live streams to another tab on your page, these special features hopefully get more views. And Alan, thank you very much for the kind words about the video. I am still very ecstatic about how well it was received, and I can't wait to make another one because I had a lot of fun making it.
And thank you so much once again for the support, Alan. And of course, we do enjoy the kind words on the videos. Matthew has been making some pretty good videos, and hopefully will continue to make good videos. And also, hopefully, I will also be adding into the video pool and making new videos. I'm not really sure if that will be soon. We'll have to see how time and scheduling and all that stuff works, but hopefully they will be fairly interesting and well received, hopefully. The government cheese one was somewhat well received, but kind of, honestly, now that I look back at it, is not really in the genre that this channel is going to be covering for the large part, so it was kind of a little bit off base, but still, I thought it was pretty neat. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope we were able to address that comment fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $15 super chat from Colleen Emsley, who says, check out West Edmonton Mall in Edmonton, Alberta. Warwood Park and I think Colleen meant to say water park and all. Now I'm screwing it up anyway.
Water park.
Water park.
Water park and all.
Even though I live in the forest, I still have some fun. Lols.
Matthew's turning into a New Yorker over there. He's going to get himself some guapi and go to the water park and all. Anyways, let's go here. Let's go look at this mall. Ooh, that is cool.
Oh, I like the fake Japanese maple trees. Is that what those are called?
I think these are just Canadian maples.
Oh, is it? It looks like those Japanese trees, though. Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure that those are maple leaves. But I might be
Roast
wrong.
me in the chat if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna be like, yo, but let's see here. A Lamborghini, a Lego Lamborghini. The kid's
Oh no, that's sick.
Yeah, kid's grown up. He's living the life. He's gonna get himself a Rolex, a Lego Rolex. We got a putt-putt course. Cool. That's really cool. Putt-putt's fun. Let's see. A ship? No, dude, this is just crazy. This is nuts. Some pretty good looking food.
Oh man.
A roller coaster.
That food looks so good.
Man, there's the Lego Lamborghini again.
Oh, that is so cool. That is one of the coolest Lego things I've ever seen. That is so accurate looking. And it's wait a minute, it's Lego Technic. It's those little like offshoot Lego pieces.
Yeah, these are like massive Lego Technic pieces. Or they took a whole bunch of Legos and made bigger Lego Technic pieces, but still really cool. What's this here? This is like some kind of like a European pavilion. It looks like everything European, so it's not really like a specific country, but really cool. Boston pizza. Hey, you want some Boston pizza? Let's see here. That was not a Boston accent. Let's see. I don't know what that is, but it looks good. I mean, like, this is a cool mall. Everyone's trying to give us cool mall recommendations. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, like, the malls from where I grew up were terrible. Like, they didn't have anything cool like this.
Yes.
They just sucked.
And the crime is horrific in Alabama malls. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's one specific mall. I don't feel too bad calling it out because I think everyone in Alabama knows of this mall. Everyone's scared to death to go in it. It's the River Chase Galleria in Birmingham.
No, that one's not that bad compared to the one in Montgomery.
Okay, it's
not anywhere near as bad.
It's not that bad, but this thing here is like a free-for-all battle royale Birmingham style. Like you can go in here one day and there could just be a shooting, and everyone's scared to go in it. I think from what I've heard, it's getting kind of tough to get tenants in it. And you can see it here.
That's right.
It's not that exciting of a mall. It's just, it's just vendors. That's it. No neat attractions or anything. You got a carousel, but that's as far as it goes attraction-wise. And it looks like an okay mall. I mean, it's not that, well, for Alabama, it's an okay mall. It's not that bad. But at the same time, crazy stuff happens in here, and it's, it's not that great of a mall. So if you want to know the mall that we used to go to, we used to live in Montgomery, and the malls down here are battle royales. It's just the fact
They
of
are.
life.
That's not an understatement.
So Eastdale, I would say, is like the go-to battle royale of the town. You can see here, let me try and find out.
There's a picture right there of a crime happening, I think. It was a crime scene of some sort.
No. I think that's something like there's some crap on the floor or something like that, because there's a whole
They
bunch
have
of
police tape up for that?
Apparently. I mean, like...
No, that's different.
So, real quick story to y'all about this ice skating rink. So, ice skating, we used to ice skate here as a kid. I think we did it once or twice, but there's this little dressing room that goes down into like a basement. And you can also see how bad off the roof is. That's how bad this mall is doing. But there's a like dressing room down in the bottom in the basement or something. And you would go down there and somehow a gas leak happened, and it happened so quickly that someone died down there in the dressing room from a gas leak from the gases that they used to keep the ice like pretty much chilled. So that was a pretty crazy story. It's a desolate place. Like, you can see all
last time we were there, the gangs were basically running the mall from what we could tell.
Yeah, it's a pretty rough place in that mall. I mean, it's a mall. It's trying to run business. It's trying to keep going, but it's like look at all the closed vendors that used to be here and aren't here anymore, and look at the condition of the roof.
Man, that's kind of sad to see too. It wasn't like that anywhere like near when we were there.
Yeah, and they're not even.
And it was bad then too.
And they're not even painting the walls anymore on the skating rink. It's just, I mean, like this mall is hardly hanging on. And this is what we know as malls, and this is why I'm saying that malls aren't that great. because this is what we know. You can even see in 2019 they were keeping this mall up a lot better than they are now. And that's how quickly downhill it's going. But that is probably the worst mall that's still open in the town. There's a couple of more, like this one, that's just closed. I mean, like, they don't even use it anymore. You can see it on Street View, though. That used to be a mall. I think we went in there before a couple of times.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean...
Now it's I think a police station or a fire department they turned the mall into.
Yeah, I mean, it's... Yeah, yikes. It's not going great down there. But anyways, with that, I hope that addresses the mall talk real well. That's why we're not big fans of malls, but y'all are spoiled when it comes to malls elsewhere around the country. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for support, and also letting us look at that cool mall in Edmonton, Colleen. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
All right, and up next, we have a $5 super chat from the Pack Rat, who says, the Fun Fund. I truly appreciate what you fellas do, and Tennessee is better than Oklahoma and Texas, the true pioneers. Ha ha ha.
Uh-oh. And thank you so much for the support, Pack Rat. And also, thank you once again for saying that you enjoy these streams. It means a lot to me, and it helps us to keep this thing running. And also, Tennessee is an interesting state. Really cool place. It has some really neat spots in it. One of the neatest spots I know of is the Alvin York National Park in Pall Mall. But it is a cool state. Y'all have some really cool things going for y'all. And so with that, I thank you so much once again, Pack Rat, for the support. Of course, you've been around for a long time and helping this channel to keep on running. And thank you for the fun, because that helps me to go do fun things, like get donuts. And, well, pretty much every once in a while for my college class. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. It really helps me to help on giving out to other folks, which I love doing. It's fun to give out donuts because it's really nice and, it's just neat. Makes you feel good. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again.
All right, and moving on to our next one, we have a super chat from, it looks like, Junebug72, who does not leave a comment and leaves a $5 donation. And Junebug, thank you very much for that support. And as always, we do appreciate you always sticking with us through thick and thin. And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Commander COVID-19, who says, how long until Vladimir Putler meets Comrade Tokarov or Comrade Makarov? Suggestive-looking emoji face. Wings and pizza for all, and Slava Ukraine.
Hey, and that's the first time we've ever had wings recommended, and we are some wing geeks, I guess you could say. We like wings. I haven't had them recently though, but I like mine super spicy.
If you call Zaxby's being a wing geek.
Well, I mean, yeah, Matthew's got to roast me.
Exposed.
There. Thanks, Matthew. Thanks. Jeez, I really like Zaxby's though. I like the extra spicy sauce. Like the hottest one. Anyways,
nuclear. Or insane, I think it was.
Yeah, I think it's insane. It's a good sauce on occasion, but still. Anyways, getting back to talking about what was that again? Can you reread that again, Matthew?
Yes. Let's see here. It was from let's see here. Hold on just a second. I'm looking.
He's checking. He's looking.
For some reason, I cannot find it. Let's see here. I can't find it for some reason. I don't know what happened.
So, with that in mind, we have to address that somehow. So, let's see, the wings. Let's see, pizza and wings for all. And of course, I thank you for that. That's one thing I do remember. And so I thank you so much for the support to the pizza and wings. Sadly, I don't know the first part. Do you remember it, Matthew?
No, not really. I'm trying to look for it. Let's see. I think it was Commander COVID-19 right here. He said, wings and pizza for y'all and Slava Ukraine. And how long until Vladimir Putler meets Comrade Tokarov and Comrade Makarov?
It will not be long. Most likely months. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope we were finally able to answer all parts of that question. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again.
All right. And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Nick. And hopefully I'm not about to butcher this last name. It's a really unique one. Skanderbegas, who says, any idea as to how many Albanians fighting for Ukraine? Starsky confirmed there were many, but no estimates. My cousin has been fighting there since April.
And thank you for the support, Nick, and also thank you so much to your cousin who's been fighting there. And sadly, I don't have any exact numbers on how many Albanians are fighting in Ukraine. We don't really have any exact numbers as to how many members of the Foreign Legion there are and what country they come from, sadly. But one thing I do know is that we have not heard of, I believe, a specific Albanian legion in the Foreign Legion. We have heard of some, I guess you could say, segregated units because there's so many members from a single country, like an American Foreign Legion, and I believe a British Foreign Legion as well, and sometimes they do mix those two together, but I have not heard of an individual Albanian legion. So I would assume that it's a decent number, but it's not big enough to warrant their own separate legion. But then again, I might be entirely wrong. There may be a lot of them, and we've just never heard of them. Also, fun fact about Albania, and I'm sure you probably know this, Nick, is that at one time, Albania had a pretty odd dictator in charge of the country, and he ordered that bunkers be built everywhere. And so all over Albania, in the middle of urban areas, you'll just find these bunkers. They're just sitting around. I think I would like to find one, but sadly, how many super chats do we have left, Matthew?
We have about 20 left.
Oh,
actually 25.
Oh, we're going to start running overtime. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support, Nick. I hope that does answer the question fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $7 super chat from Robert Whitehead, who says, Enforcer Matt, clip tonight, tank BMP, did tank sink in bog or lake?
I didn't see the tank sink in a bog or a lake. I think the video you're talking about with the tank and the BMP, we saw them advancing in an open field and they came under fire, but we never saw the tank get bogged down. So with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, and thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from What's on Tap Nebraska, who puts in a $5 donation and says, Enforcer Matt, now that Russia appears to be weakened by the Ukraine war, do you think China will try to retake lands lost to Russia in the 1800s?
And I thank you for the support. I don't think they will, because that will come with increased administrative costs for really no gain. As far as I know, this area isn't really resource rich. The only thing worth of value is Vladivostok Port. And so with that, I don't think they would for those reasons. And so with that, I thank you for the support. I hope that does answer the question fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from the B93, who says, today is All Saints Day. Which is your favorite, St. Javelin, St. Hymars, or one of the new saints that debuted this week?
Saint Javelin is my favorite. It was the original saint. I think it was a fun one, a cool one. It really got a lot of people to rally around the Ukrainians at the beginning of the war and give kind of an image of resistance. And so I like St. Javelin the most. I'll just have to stick to it because it's the original. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support. Hope that does address the comment fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Cameron K, who says, you think U.S. will get to the point of giving Ukraine GBU-43B MOABs to destroy Luhansk Wagner defense line and big Russia groupings from Pasadena, California?
And thank you so much for the support. I would look at Pasadena, but I think we are starting to run a little overtime here. But one thing I can say is that we most likely will not give them a MOAB because they will have to drop that out of the back of something with a cargo door, so something like an IL-76 or a C-130, and those, those, as far as I know, are pretty far and few for the Ukrainians. I believe they may only have 2 IL-76s, so we'd have to send them over a C-130 as well, and I'm not sure if we are going to be willing to send that over. And so with that, I thank you for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well, and we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Smart Lucker, who says, if you have never watched Alternative History Hub, please do, because 1, he makes great content, and number 2, Matt's videos gives me his vibes, more money for Poland. And also, Smart Lucker, the Enforcer said the same thing when he watched the first edit of it. I haven't seen that channel's videos. I actually have never heard of it, but I'm going to have to go watch it now as I'm curious.
And I would have to agree with you. It does kind of give off Alternate History Hub vibes, and that would be kind of cool if we could ever do a collab with them on some kind of occasion here or there. They'd make pretty cool videos. I like them. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope we were able to address that comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again.
All right. And up next, we have a $5 super chat from GNF, who says, hi from Miramar, Florida. Also, why is Russia still committing to offensive actions instead of defensive ones when they don't have enough supplies?
That is a great question, and the reason why is because I think no one really wants to tell Putin that it's going that badly that they can no longer even conduct offensives, and so I believe they're conducting the offensives just to keep their heads on, and not have them rolling. And of course, that is a really hard thing to say because it could be other reasons. It could be that they believe that there's still a way to change the war's momentum in their favor, but I just don't see it. I think that they're really doing it just so that way it doesn't look like they're doing poorly, although they still are. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does answer the question fairly well, and we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from SP Detectors, who does not leave a comment, but thank you very much for the support, and we do appreciate it quite a bit. And also, we have a $5 super chat from Craig Platel, who says A-20 was the Havoc in U.S. service, Boston in British service.
And thank you so much for the support. I did get the designation of the plane correct. It was an A-20, but I forgot the name of it. And so I thank you so much once again for the support and also clarifying that for me. So that way, hopefully, I get it correct going here forward. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support and also clearing that up.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Mr. Buckaroony, who says, how does this war finish, mate? Russia capitulating or a truce?
Most likely, it'll end in three ways. Either it'll be a never-ending war where Ukraine pushes Russia out, but they never sign a peace treaty, or the Russian government could collapse, which will lead to a government change, and then the new government may end the war, or it could end with Russia, this is the most unlikely option, doing something drastic in Ukraine, which brings in the Western world into World War III, and then it goes down the inevitable route, most likely towards nuclear war or some kind of a ceasefire agreement where everything goes status quo antebellum, which is pretty much fancy words for saying it'll go back to the way it was before the war. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and I hope we were able to address that question fairly well, and thank you for the support.
All right, and up next, we have a $5 super chat from Philip Fixes, who says, drop in on Colonel Joe Kittinger Park. It's on South Street. It only goes west, and it is north of its sister street. Also, Church Street is a fun drive.
So let's see here. Joe Kittinger Park in Orlando. So we'll drop down here real quick. See, we'll drop down in the pictures. We got a nice F4. It looks like an F4B. Or, I don't know, it may be really any F4. It could be like an F4C or something like that. Not an F4E, though. Those are very distinct. Pretty neat. That's pretty cool. I like that. Hanoi in oh, look, they said North Vietnam. Like, there's still North and South Vietnam. That's pretty funny. Let's see what else we got. Got a little, I don't even know what that is. It's like an air pump or something. Still a pretty cool place. Nice park. Posted. No trespassing. Restricted area. And then, once again, the F4. Again, a lot of people like taking pictures of that F4. But with that, I hope we've been able to look at that fairly well. Thank you so much once again for the support and letting us take a fairly good look at that place. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep alive.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Who Dat Dragon, who says, hi, enforcers. My sister is a forensic anthropologist, retired from JPAC in Hawaii. Just give her a shout out. Loving the stream as always.
And a huge shout out to your sister, because that is really cool to hear that she is a anthropologist.
A forensic one.
A forensic anthropologist doing that murder anthropology. I'm just kidding. But I thank you so much for the support. And also a huge shout out to your sister all the way out in Hawaii in the middle of the Pacific. Hope y'all are enjoying it out there if you're out there with her. And it's really cool to hear that we have viewers all the way out in places like Hawaii. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Richard Daniel Jr., who says, Slavia, Ukraine.
And thank you.
Excuse me.
And thank you so much, Richard.
He had a little extra too. Slavia, Ukraine. And check out Rainbow Row or anywhere downtown Charleston, South Carolina. Very historic and lots of history.
Rainbow Row. That's a pretty cool one, actually. I have heard of this place before. It's a whole bunch of houses on this one road, and they're all painted a different color. This happened in, I believe, the 1910s or the 20s, and it's just stayed that way ever since, and they call it Rainbow Road because it looks like a rainbow. It's really cool. It's a really neat place, and also Charleston is a very historic city, one of the oldest in the country, I guess you could say, in terms of American history, you know, and its prominence there. And of course, it was fairly important in, I believe, the Civil War, because it was one of the major ports of the Confederate States of America, which didn't really last long. But still, I thank you so much for the support. And also, in case y'all don't know now, Charleston is a massive port for the import of cars. And you can see the car import port right here and how many cars there really are. And all of them are the same color, except for that truck. And so that, I hope we have addressed that fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the support, Richard Daniel Jr. I had to make sure to get that correct. And also, thank you so much for being around for a long time and helping us to keep this thing running.
All right. And up next, we have a $5 super chat from White Lightning 777 once again, who says, if Texas secedes, blame PSYOPs.
PSYOPs is going to single-handedly anger the Texans so bad they will go independent. I don't know how it will go for them. I mean, like, it's not that bad. They do have port access, so they have access to the world economy. And they also are a pretty sizable state economy. I believe Texas is one of the largest states by GDP in the nation, next to California and New York. So they wouldn't do that bad, but still, hopefully they won't leave due to PSYOPs. But thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $4 super chat from Yenrock, who says, good day, Enforcer. Check out Townsville, Kingsland, formerly Queensland, Australia, and in particular, The Strand.
Queensland, Australia.
It's actually known as Townsville, Kingsland, formerly known as Queensland, Australia.
Townsville, Kingsland.
said like a true Alabamian. Townsville, Kingsland.
Can't. Let me. Queensland, Australia. It looks like on Google, it's still Queensland, Australia. Maybe you're talking about the change of name because now King Charles is in charge, and so I guess perhaps he gets a name change. But what's the town again, Matthew?
Townsville, Kingsland.
Kingsland. I think that's just the name. Kingsland. New South Wales. I can't find the specific town you're talking about. It's probably Townsville, correct?
Townsville, Kingsland.
Okay, yes, I believe this is it. So let's drop down here and take a look. Crocky, mate.
Oh, you've been had, Enforcer.
What do you mean?
Kingsland is a joke.
Well, I mean, hell, we still found a Townsville. I mean, like, we still won in a way. And there's also Guelphy. I like to say Guelphy because it's just fun. But anyways, it's Queensland. It is Queensland. And so with that, I hope you enjoyed us taking a look at this town. It sounds like you did have us. You did have us. And so with that, we are on to the next one. But I hope you enjoyed us taking a look at Townsville. And it doesn't look that bad. It's actually a nice town. Also with a large, like, rocky outcropping over there. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again. But no thank you for being had. And so with that, on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $4 super chat from Casey, who says, Kyiv Independent puts out casualty report daily without fail. 45 cruise missiles shot down yesterday.
What? Okay, that's crazy. And I would like to know how that happened, because that's a massive amount. But I thank you for the support, and also thank you for sharing that with us, because I did not include that in today's news. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support.
And we also have a $3 super chat from Robert Whitehead once again, who says, Tank BMP, the rank, disappeared in video, question mark.
Tank BMP, I unfortunately don't know which video that is. There were a lot of BMPs in today's videos, so sadly I don't know which one in particular that is mentioning, but I do thank you for the support, and I will see about which one that is if I can. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again for the support.
All right, and up next, we have a $3 super chat from Colleen Emsley, who says, show the water park and skating arena.
And let's see if we can. Let's run back to Edmonton, Canada real quick, in Alberta. And let's find the mall. The mall. Where's the mall? Mall. Okay. Edmonton Mall. Mall. West Edmonton. There we go. We found the mall. Let's go to the skating rink. Find that skating rink. I think that is the skating rink. And then what was the other one? The skating rink and what else?
In the water parks.
The water park. Let's see if we can find the water park. There's kind of like the water park, I suppose. Maybe there's a bigger one. That looks like the water park. I might be wrong there, but there's not a lot of people in that park if it's a water park. So let's keep going. Maybe. Not really. Not really. It doesn't really look like it all too much. Wait a minute. There's the water park. That's a water park. That is a water park. It's kind of a shallow water park, though. But still, it is a water park nonetheless. We did not have that in malls here in Alabama. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope you enjoyed us taking a quick look at the ice skating rink and the water park. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support. And I hope we were able to take a look at what you were looking for. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $2 super chat from Redneck Reaper, who says, want to check out a town, Paris, TN, and or Eiffel Tower.
Paris, Tennessee. Paris, Tennessee. Y'all have an Eiffel Tower? Do y'all? Do y'all have an Eiffel Tower? Paris, Tennessee. I have a feeling y'all don't. I have a feeling we've been had again, Matthew. There's no way that this town has a small Eiffel Tower. I don't see it. Hang on. Paris.
And also, we have 10 super chats left.
I gotta see. Paris, Tennessee. Did they really have a small Eiffel Tower? Oh my god.
Yes, it's right there.
They do. It's a tiny Eiffel Tower. That is cool. That is actually really cool. And so that, I thank you so much for the support. We did find the Eiffel Tower, and I hope you enjoyed us taking a look at the jewel of Paris, Tennessee. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
Right, and up next, we have a $2 super chat from Gucci the Pug, who says, I'm debating whether I should read that one off or not.
Just go on and read it. Just make sure to censor the words that might need to be censored.
Well, it's not really like censor worthy, but here it goes anyway. Gucci the Pug says, how was the Cougar Cruise? Any sugar mamas?
Well, I thank you for the support. No, and yeah, and that's a weird one. Anyways, thank you for the support. We are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $2 super chat from GNF, who says, here's for a live chat question, and this one is sponsored by GNF, and the live chat question goes to Mad Machine, who says, a question, would a net between two heavy balloons help with the suicidal drones?
I have a feeling that nets would help with suicide drones. I don't know how effective that would be and how economic it would be, but I do think it would help because the drones, of course, would run into the net. They would probably get damaged enough, even if they made it through the net, that they wouldn't be able to continue on. And so I feel like it would be a pretty good, I guess you could say, stopgap to try and stop these suicide drones. So with that, I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $2 super chat from Erek Pavik, who says, a big fan of the daily streams from Rezo.
And I thank you so much for the support. I think he's talking about Rejal, I believe, Matthew?
Is it said Rejal?
Yes, it is Rejal.
Wait a minute. Oh, yeah, it's the same place.
And can you reread that again real quick?
Big fan.
Oh, he's from Rejal?
Yes, from Rejal.
Neat. Let's take a look real quick. I know how many super chats do we have left, Matthew?
Let's see. We have 5 of those left, and we have about a ton of live chat questions.
All right, but real quick, I'm not gonna lie. It's a nice place. This is a really nice place. Rejal is really cool. Also, they have an Irish pub in Poland. Irish pub in Poland. It's not just an American thing. It's a Polish thing too. But with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope you enjoyed us taking a little look at Rejal, Poland. Really nice place. And with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you so much for being a Lee Spring Army member all the way from Poland.
All right, and up next, big shout out to Dubsy Dabster for putting in a $2 donation as usual. And thank you very much for that continued support, and we do appreciate it very much. We also have a $2 super chat from Packrat once again, who says, loving the stream. Take my support from Nashville, Tennessee.
And thank you for the support once again, Packrat. I thank everyone so much for supporting this channel and helping us to keep running. Y'all help us to keep on trucking with this channel, helping us to do all kinds of things. Of course, like prepare to go to law school. And so I thank you so much once again, because y'all help us to keep alive in the background, help us to keep doing this as a job, so that way we can keep on reporting on the war. And of course, without y'all, it's not possible. And so with that, thank you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $1 super chat from Paul J, who says, Kanakoban, or something like that, NSW, Australia, population 350.
New South Wales?
Yes, New South Wales, Australia, and the first word was Kanakoban? Kankoban?
Can you spell it out for me?
With a Khancoban?
Kankoban, Australia. Little town. I mean, it's really a tiny town. Jeez, that is small, but it's near the Kankoban Pondage. But let's take a look here. What's going on here? Huh? What's going on? Let's take a look. Oh, not a bad place. Not a bad place at all. It's really nice out there. Nice, a lot of hills and stuff. What about this road? What does it look like up here? Oh, that's pretty cool. This is what you would imagine Australia.
Man, this is snake territory out here.
Oh, like crocky, mate. But yes, this looks like snake territory, and also, it looks really nice out here. It's really pretty. I like it. And so with that, I thank you for the support. Is this where he lives?
Maybe.
That is really crazy if this is where he lives. This is a tiny town, and it's really cool to think that this town is so small. You could probably tell everyone in this town about the Enforcer, and they would know about it because it's just such a small town. But with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And also, y'all have a whole golf course as well, it appears. That's wild. And so with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you so much once again for the support, and I hope we addressed that fairly well.
All right, and for our final super chat, until we get to our live chat questions, we have one from Stephen Hamaki, who puts in a $1 donation and says, please pick a live chat question. And Stephen, you are going to take us into our live chat segment, and thank you very much for your support. And the first one from the live chat goes to Brad Lewis, who says, do you think Russia will sacrifice itself just to win Ukraine over? It doesn't seem logical to me.
I would say that they may, considering that Putin's looking at this from a strategic perspective like we are. If they lose Ukraine as a neutral or Russian-aligned country, that means that NATO forces are in striking distance of Volgograd. And so this may be a do-or-die kind of situation right now as far as the Russian government is concerned. And so by that degree, I would say that Russia may destroy itself in an attempt to try and win Ukraine. And so with that, I hope that does address that live chat fairly well. And thank you once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and we did have a super chat come in just a second ago. It looks like it's a $20 donation from Secular Sakai, who says, recently learned that Ukrainian-owned UARM body armor is newly selling their product in the U.S. and accepting donations of armor and other gear at dozens of U.S. sites to send to the UAF, Slava Ukraine, and E Pluribus Unum.
And thank you so much for the support, Secular Sakai. And also, while it is, let's see, I'm trying to see. So that is very interesting to hear, and it's cool to know that people are providing body armor to Ukraine. One thing I always have to say, because sometimes people throw in comments like that, and they're hoping that I will support the fundraiser. I only support fundraisers that we can run through YouTube Give. I will never condemn one though. Like that sounds like a great way to donate and help out Ukraine. But I will probably never plug a PayPal or a donation thing like that, because there's no way for me to verify that it's safe on my end. So but still, it does sound really cool. And it does sound like it's doing a great service. And I thank you so much once again, Secular Sakai, for helping us out with the Super Chat. And of course, helping us to keep this channel running. And also telling us about a pretty cool way to get Ukrainian soldiers body armor. And so with that, thank you so much once again. And Slava Ukraini. And so with that, we are back on to live chat questions. And also, due to time reasons, I think we'll only be able to answer about 3 more live chats. I'm sorry, everyone, if the super chat section was incredibly long tonight. And so with that, we will be answering 3 more. And so with that, on to the next one.
And next up, we have one from Kyle Schmidt, who says, have you guys heard that estimated about $1 billion in weapons going to Ukraine has ended up on the black market?
I have not heard that. I've heard that in passing as a Russian propaganda thing, but I would highly doubt it. $1 billion of weapons making it onto the black market, and especially thinking that they would be able to make it out of Ukraine, is highly unlikely, because the only place they could go, it's not back to NATO countries, it would be into Russia. And Russia, if that was something that was happening, they were trying to make money off of it. I don't think they would be telling the United States, because they're the ones who said that's happening. They would be trying to make money off of it or keep the weapons for themselves. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and we also have our Morse code decoders, Draconia and Cfei, who said the code says the frost is coming and the Russians are freezing out there.
And also, real quick, I did see Mark Hodges also threw it in as well, and y'all are correct. Y'all did get it correct. The winter is coming, and the Russians are freezing. And they are already freezing as of right now. The front lines are frozen solid. And so with that, thank you to all of y'all, all 3 of y'all, who have deciphered tonight's Morse code message. Of course, y'all have done this every single day since we've been running one, and it's always cool to see that y'all keep up with them, and y'all get the messages correct too. And so with that, we are on to, I believe, the final question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person who threw in the lucky last question of the night?
All right, and that viewer is Todd Abbott, who says, if Iran is going to sell or send cruise missiles to Russia, then why should the U.S. not be able to send ATACMS?
Great question. There really wouldn't be a reason unless if Russia says, wah, it's unfair, wah, we're going to do something. That would be the only reason why we wouldn't send them over. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well. I know it's a very short answer, but I feel like it does justice to the question fairly well. And so with that, I believe we are about to round out tonight's stream, but we do have one more super chat to address. So real quick, if you would like to read that one off, Matthew.
This one is from Richard. I about said Richard. Richard Daniel Jr., who puts in a $10 donation and says, I'm confused. Russia says they are fighting in Ukraine not to border NATO, but they want to take Ukraine, which would put Russia on the border with Ukraine. I can't have it both ways.
And that is a pretty good point, Richard Daniel Jr. And to address what they are saying that they don't want NATO on their border, and what they really want to do is, at the beginning of the war at least, they were wanting to take a swath of southern Ukraine, and then they were going to make the rest of Ukraine into a puppet state that was pretty much run by Russia behind the scenes, but would give a buffer zone in between them and the West. It's part of, I guess you could say, Putin's idea of sphere building, and he's trying to rebuild his sphere of influence over Eastern Europe, but that never really coalesced. But yes, now at this point, it doesn't make any sense at all, especially based on what they're dealing with and what they're now saying. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for support, Richard Daniel Jr., and also helping this stream to keep on running, because without y'all, this isn't possible. And so with that, we have reached the end of tonight's stream. 3 hours, 32 minutes, and 52 seconds in. I thank you all so much once again for watching. If you did enjoy, please make sure to hit the subscribe button, because these streams run every single day of the week at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, except for Mondays, because we take that day off. But of course, thank you all so much once again. It's been an absolute pleasure covering the news, and also we've had an incredible good amount of great questions tonight. And so with that, I will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the war in Ukraine on day 253. Good night, everyone. Take care, stay safe, and Slava Ukraini.
Yes. The Leaf Street Army sends its regards.
Усміхнеться доля. свіженькі, як роса на сонці. Запануємо ми, браття, у своїй сторонці. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу.